Normatec recovery systems give you a high-tech compression massage for warm-up pre-workout and recovery post-workout.
The technology is very safe and is used by a broad range of athletic types and really any fitness enthusiast looking to get the most out of their workout.
The whole idea is that we're using air compression to help increase circulation in the body. We wanted to mimic physiology, the way the body moves fluids. We went ahead and took a lot of those principles and put it into a system that you can use on your different extremities and your hips as well.
Normatec has been an industry leader in pneumatic compression, providing improved mobility and profound healing for thousands of patients. We continually work with researchers to study and develop the effectiveness of our technology.
It's all about creating that community space where people have a conversation around recovery and start really challenging their beliefs in what is possible and what they've known and maybe what could be.
Come on, move. Of course, there aren't any spots. A few minutes won't hurt anybody. Thanks, Grandma.
Paralyzed Veterans of America works tirelessly every day to create a more accessible America. Let's leave the accessible spaces to the people who actually need them. Whatever the reason, excuses don't excuse. Join PVA and be part of the solution. Honor the spot.
Well, welcome along. What a special day we have today. We have qualifiers, the World Championships in all this indoor racing. So two lucky people, one lady, one gentleman, are going to get through to the final on February the 26th, 2022. Who will it be? We've got a bumper lineup for you this afternoon. I'd say this afternoon, depends where you're riding from. I'm in London, so it's this afternoon. It's probably the morning if you're cycling somewhere in the USA, so good morning. We've got a bumper lineup for you this morning, this afternoon, whatever suits you. Starting with the ladies' race, which starts in a few minutes. We have 16 laps around St. Louis in Benton Park, and it's fairly flat, so I think it will be. I say that there are some elevation, but here we have the course. Look at this. So this is Benton Park. I think they ride the Benton Park Classic there, which is a race you can go and enter. As you see, it goes over the highway and back into town after a little loop the other side of the highway. So fairly flat, 16 laps of that. It's going to be 43.9 kilometres. We'll call it 44. So we're looking at the sort of thick end of sort of 26, 27 miles, if that's how you work. As I say, ladies up first. We have a men's A race and a men's B race, and then we have the paracycling and the other bikes such as recumbents and trikes and things like that. This is all part of the Echelon Community Series. These are the dates for your diary. You can see here we're on the Gateway Cup. 11th of December, that's on the left, 4 down in the little list. Tomorrow we're doing the Iron Horse. That is going to be quite a long race, and that looks absolutely cracking. Then we move on, these are the community dates. There are professional races on the other weekends as well. We move on to 2nd of January, 15th of January, 16th of January and 29th of January for the last 4 races in the series. An absolutely splendid series so far. As I say, we've done the in the past, we've done the the Tour of Dairyland and the Indy Crit back there. Now, I think we're moving down the country a little bit because we were up in Milwaukee last week. We're down in St. Louis today, so I think we're going to Colorado next. So we're sort of working our way down central USA. If my geography is not quite right, please forgive me, but I think that's roughly what we're doing. So as I say, we looking forward to the race. The race starts in 2 minutes 16 seconds. It is the ladies race up first. I'm not sure that there's a huge field for the ladies course, but remember what's at stake here. This is entry and qualification to the World Championships run by the UCI on February the 26th 2022. So whatever happens, there's plenty to race for, and even if they do get split up, remember, just like the real world has mechanicals for cyclists, we have techanicals here, and we witnessed, interestingly, one on Wednesday. It's one of my races actually, a race I organised, and one rider got within about probably 20 metres, maybe less, of the finishing line, and had some sort of technical problem with his PC or Apple, whatever, and was stuck there as all the other riders went by and ended up finishing last. So these things can happen. Don't assume if the riders do get spread out that it all gets it's pretty tedious, because there's still always those risks. As I say, later on, after the men's A and men's B races, we have the hand cycling. You can see there, I'm not sure whether we've got hand cycle avatars today for the hand cycle race, but they will be with us soon, if not today. I know they've been worked on. I've seen some drawings of them, so that's quite an exciting development from RGT. If you're new to RGT, it is I suppose it's the easy thing to say is it's an equivalent to the sort of well-known Zwift, but it's very different. I think it appeals to a very different sort of rider. RGT is far more realistic than Zwift. It doesn't have all the games elements, the bells and whistles, scoring points and prizes and things like that. So very, very different. But its main attribute is the fact that we can all make up our own courses. So you're not compelled to always ride on Zwift's existing courses. So this is the women's race, and we have quite a few online. Let's have a look. We've got Oulette, Ella, Haag. Oh, and they're off. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So we've got a decent lineup here. There's 11 races, so that's quite good. Yes, 11 races. I'm delighted with that. And you can see it's quite an international field. 3 from the USA there. He's moving about. Quite a few Germans by the looks of things. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4 Germans? A Finn. 6 US, I think. 6 US, 3 Germans, a Finn. And un Français. Or Française, I should say, shouldn't I? Get my gender agreement correct. And we have the USA dominating the front at the moment. 2 off the front. It's only roughly 10 metres. I wouldn't expect that to split. I think the split behind this first 6 or 7 is the one that we need to look at. Between 7 and 8 now, you can see there's 20 metres already. There's somebody caught in the middle there, aren't they? Now, the thing is, are they going to get hung out to dry, or are they going to make up that gap? And Jacqueline Godby is out on front, not anymore. She's suddenly overtaken by Ola, but she's not having any of that. Taking turns on the front, maybe. I don't think quite it was Erin Ayala. again from the USA. USA very dominant. 3 of the front 4 are from the USA, and of that batch of 7, 4 are from the USA. So a very dominant home showing here, and we would expect so. I mean, I think the times are designed to suit you guys. It's run by USA Cycling. Megan Isla is in. What is she in? Second place, and she's pumping out just under 200 watts, as we can see at the bottom of the screen. Cadence of it's changing; it's just gone up to 100, and heart rate of 179.37 watts per kilogram. So we've got a slight gradient here. If you look in the top right-hand corner of your screen, there's these two pushing out. It's a plus 1.3. When I started saying that, it was about 1.3. There's only about 17 meters of ascent in each lap, so it's not really going to have any hills. But it is possible, if you just put that extra pressure on the front when there is a bit of an incline, that somebody behind gets gapped. And I was saying that RGT is very realistic, and one of its great attributes is the effect of the draft. And once you have dropped off, of course, you lose the effect of the draft. So little climbs like that 1.3% seem to have done a little bit of damage, with 2 going off the front. To good effect, really, just using that small incline. And remember, this is 16 laps, so there's 16 times you can do that. However, if you are in a group, it does have the advantage of the draft, as I was saying earlier, and you can, of course, like these 3 ladies here, 2 from Germany, 1 from the US. Kate Tuillet from the USA, along with the Herring and Karelis from Deutschland. Now, if you can get in a little group like this, it can save you a lot of watts over the course of the race. It won't be quite as organised as on the front, off the front. You can do that, and you see Sarah Kulis from Germany. Yeah. If you can ride in little groups and take turns on the front. It's quite hard to organise, and it takes a little bit of practice. If you've ever done any team time trials in RGT, and I can tell you I have, it took us a long time before we started getting anything like a cohesion about who was meant to be on the front. Not least because if you try and catch up, you quite often overshoot the person on the front rather than just pulling up on the back of their wheel. It takes a bit of knack. Eve Marie Herring, again from Germany. We've got 2 Germans in this little group sitting around at what have we got them at? 3rd, 4th, 5th. I'm reading the wrong thing, I think, aren't I? That's not that group at all. Herring's at the back. So Herring and Karulis are back 10th and 11th, and they're about 300 metres off the front now. As we see, Godby and Isla now working away. They've got 200 on 3rd place now, so I think one of these 2 is going to be our World Championship qualifier. We've got Megan Isla, Ariel Verin and Jackie Godby all on the Zoom link there. As you can see, I think Megan Isla's face mimics the sort of face I pull when I'm on these things. I think Jackie's certainly working hard as well there, looking at the facial expression. Don't read too much into that. The cyclist they're just overtaking there is one of the dummy riders for the cameras, so they haven't lapped anybody just yet, I don't think. We're 3.7 kilometres into a 40k race, so about 10% of the race done, and as I say, the first 2 have eked out well over 200 metres now, so I think they're going to win, assuming no mechanicals, by a kilometre or more, I would expect, possibly up to 2 kilometres at the rate they're going. That assumes they keep that rate. Now the big question is, are they going to try and drop each other? Because, you know, everybody knows their own strengths and weaknesses. If you know that the other rider is a good sprinter, then obviously you don't really want them around at the end, so you might try and wear them down during the course. On the other hand, if you don't know your rider, it's probably not the prospect of doing another 39 kilometres solo is probably not great. So there's probably a lot of tactical thinking going on in these girls' heads at the moment. Now this is a nice little group, isn't it? Look at that, 6 riders. They are going to benefit from being together, and this group of 6 is basically 3rd down to 9th, and I suspect that at this stage in the race, nobody's really going to try and break away, because I think it's probably a good idea for this 6 to sit together and get. And Ronkainen is pumping out just under 100 watts. So this is not, they're not going full gas, that's for sure. Although Anna's not on the front, so the person on the front is probably pushing out more watts. Anna's now pushing out 200 watts because she's gone on the front, rather endorsing my comment there. So again, I think these guys probably want to sort of sit around and do the group of 6, get into the second half of the race, and see, how it pans out and who's looking tired. I suspect a couple are probably already struggling to keep on at the moment, because I know from my own experience. I mean, you see Dehan now, she's back on that group, sits in. I know from my own experience that sometimes you find yourself in a group like this, and you see the Pizza seems to have dropped off that group, so it's down to 5 at the moment by looking at it. So it's as I say, it's one of those things where if you are struggling to stay on anyway, one of those little ramps that we was looking at earlier can actually just drop you off the back, and you'll never get back on again, because if you were struggling to sit on the back already, catch up is probably not an option. The gradient's up to 2.2% here as we go through this little sort of banner, and I guess that's a start and finish, isn't it? So yeah, it's up to 4% there. So this is where, if there are going to be attacks, they're a good place to have. But as I say, in this group, I don't think I would attack right now. I'd wait till the second half of the race and take the benefit of the draft, as we see the French rider Michon going off the front. Now we've got this triple view here, so we can see everything that's going on in the race. The two off the front, well clear, sticking together. As I say, I'd rather than listening to me, it would be fantastic if we could get inside those girls' heads, couldn't it? They're sitting there wondering what they're both thinking, because they probably know that one of them is going to be bitterly disappointed and the other one is going to be jubilant. But there's a long way to go, 37 kilometres. Now what we have seen in some of these things is that one of them, the weaker one, just sort of fades away at the end, and it doesn't take a lot to break away and win. But we just don't know that, do we? So don't go anywhere, keep watching. This is certainly, I think, going to be an interesting race. And the second batch, the group of 6 there, was 7, it's gone down to 6. And this is the effect of, if you are struggling and you do get dropped, I think if you get much beyond 20 metres gap when you're dropped, it's very difficult to get back on solo unless you're a very strong rider. So I think the 7th rider who's fallen out of that, currently in no man's land, I think it's Pizza, isn't it? Pizza, the US rider. I think she's going to be in no man's land for a long time, because the 2 riders at the back are way off. So anyway, so we've got 14, so Angela Pizza, yes, she's a bit in no man's land, isn't she? 100 metres off the ones in front, 200 metres with Harriet and Ulette behind. 14 riders, it seems we have. This is a good turnout. I'm very pleased with that. I mean, certainly worth taking part in the qualifier. I think we can assume that it's going to be one of our front 2 riders. It's Angela Pizza. It's quite draining doing these solo rides when you do get caught like that in between 2 groups. My instinct is that she's probably best just actually hanging on and just letting the next group catch up, because with 38 kilometres to go, I don't think she'd really fancy doing that solo. Greece here is again looking solo, but again she's got Brimmer from Canada, Carrera from France, Masterbaiki from Italy behind. So we're up to 16 riders, in fact, actually. So there's 16 in the race. My mistake. I think I miscounted earlier. So let's say Greece here from Germany is 157 metres in front of Brimmer. The question is Brimmer catching or not? If Brimmer's catching, I mean, I think Brimmer's actually falling back. So I think Greece has got a long solo ride ahead of her, because she's not. She's got something like a kilometre to the next rider up. We see the front two there. They just hit 4.9% ramp in the race. So that was one of those points where you can lose a rider, but they've stuck together. Jackie Goody and we had French rider Carrera 15th and one but last. Should have Masterbaiki Masterbaiki is 250 meters behind her. So again, she's in that solo phase, and here we have Masterbaiki. If you go to the front, and they are stuck together like glue, aren't they? This has got to evolve. This is one of these sort of slow burn dramas, isn't it? We just don't know which one of these two has got the strongest legs. And with 35 kilometres to go, we're going to have to wait a little bit to find out. We've been riding 12 minutes now. We've done 8. So you can expect, I think we're going to be here for the best part of an hour before we find out. And we go around Benton Park in St. Louis on the Mississippi River, of course. And this is where they ride the Benton Park Classic, which is, I believe, a race that you can enter yourself. And I can't remember the date of it off the top of my head, but I'll get it for you in a moment. I think it is. Oh, it was in September, I think, in 21. So, yeah, I think it's a race you can get involved in yourself down there in St. Louis, Missouri. And as I say, September 22 is my guess. It's when it'll be on. We're riding it now on RGT. The scenery, now you might wonder why the scenery doesn't look like St. Louis. This is because RGT offers you a thing called Magic Roads, where you can go away, design your own roads based on real roads, and you send them in and they send them back all packaged up for you like this. The thing is, you get stock scenery. I don't think anybody's going to draw every house and building in your neighbourhood for your little local ride for you. So you get stock scenery like this. So even though you're riding through the city centre, over the highway bridges and all the rest of it, you get these nice wooded scenery. You do get a choice of landscapes. This is the sunny one, the standard one. I tend to use on my races. I do pick the Northern Europe one because it's, you know, a bit grayer and it rains a bit, which is what we're used to in London. So it's not only that, I run my races right through the winter, so I've got that winter feel. But here we are in the joys of summer. Megan Isla, Jackie Godby, and Erin Ayla are on the Zoom screen, as you can see, and I think Erin's looking quite calm and collected, isn't she? Jackie's sort of looking steady, and Megan certainly got that mouth open for extra oxygen intake, I would suspect. I know how it feels, so don't take that as any sort of judgment at all. I would probably have my mouth wider open than that and gasping if I were in this race. So, looking at this group of 6, this is a tidy group of 6, isn't it? So we are just having a look there. It is interesting. I think you need to look at some of the torsos there. So, for example, Michel, the French rider, has a male avatar. I don't know whether that is necessarily significant. I mean, I know when I've been in these races, there have been ladies who hadn't realised that there were female avatars. And certainly, I think at the beginning of RGT, it may have been that there weren't any or something like that. So we won't be absolutely certain. But I think if you look there, Michon is definitely using a male avatar, so that will be investigated by the judges at the end of it. I don't think Michon is going to get into the World Championships based on current positions, so I don't think it'll be worrying from that point of view. But of course, this is part of the Echelon Community Racing Series, and as such, it means that there are points on offer. So this is changed afterwards if it turns out that anybody's been technically doping, and I say technically doping by that, you know, putting the settings wrong on their machine, then there's they are taken out afterwards. And we certainly had a couple last week that we suspected, and when I saw the final results, they were of course taken out correctly. So this is a well organised, well oiled machine. So we see Jacqueline Godby out there on the front. I'm not sure if Isla's getting slightly dropped there, because the gap's small, but it's easing out a little bit. I mean, I certainly, I think it would be a brave move by Jacqueline if she did try and go out solo at this point. But on the other hand, if she doesn't fancy a sprint at the end, this might be a very, very good tactic. I'm not sure. It seems to be just pulling out a little bit, doesn't it? But it doesn't always tell you the whole story. And in fact, I mean, even if you look at Megan's position there, if you look in the top right hand corner, she's still getting a watt saving of 45 watts. As close, oh, she's got closer now, and it's got it. Okay, but it's gone up to sort of 75 watts saving now that she's right on Jackie's wheel. So you can see that even if you do get that sort of 10-meter gap, you can still be all right. But like I say, I think once you get over 20, as they overtake Greece, the German rider, back marker. But as I say, I think once you start getting over 20 metres off the, you know, it suddenly becomes tricky to get back on. And I see this has happened again. Look, although Megan got back on Jackie's wheel, that little gap's happened again. I wonder if Jackie's actually just testing the water and putting on little spurts and seeing what Megan's got in the tank there to respond. And of course, the other thing is, she might actually just tire Megan out along the way. Of course, the other side of that coin is that the danger is that Jackie tires herself out by doing all this. So maybe nobody will benefit, but I think they're probably little teasers. Megan certainly responded and got back on every time, as we can see the two of them on there. As I say, look at Megan's face, it's very much like mine. Whereas Jackie looks, she's got a very focused expression, hasn't she? But again, I think she's put in a heavy shift there. We see her and Ella looking cool, calm and collective on the right hand side out of the Facebook groups. Well done, ladies, for joining the Facebook groups. I think I would be just sort of blowing out of every orifice if this were me. So I think you're looking far cooler than I ever do when I'm doing these. So well done, girls. It'd be interesting to see. This is a battle of wits, isn't it? Whereas here we have the little the group of six all nicely riding together. I think the group of six is going to try and stay. My bet is they'll stay together beyond the halfway stage of the race, and we're over a third of the way through the race now. We've got 30 kilometres still to go in this World Championship qualifier, UCI World Championship qualifier. So don't think it's anything less. This is with the cycling's top body. The qualifier is on the 26th of February in 2022 online. I don't know what the course will be and how many riders will be in it, but I can bet you that either Jacqueline or Megan, Jackie or Megan, is going to be one of the riders when we're there. Hopefully both of them, because I suspect this won't be the only qualifier, but this is going to be a battle of wits, isn't it? I mean, this is poker, isn't it, really? Because it's one of those things. Do you know what it reminds me of? It's those when you're watching those Grand Tour races and they're going up on the mountain stages, and no one really knows who's got what in the tank. and people do little digs and see how the others respond. I suspect that Jackie and Megan are going to be probing like that throughout the race. Group of 6. This is I suppose effectively what we might call the peloton in this race, and they get the benefit of the draft as they catch up with Mastic Bike. I think Mastic Bike is probably not a real name. I think Mastek is probably the real name, so I'm going to use Mastek. That's okay. Gets overtaken there, and we look at. I don't think we read too much into this. That has strung out a little bit though, hasn't it? That group of 6. Will it come back together again? And it's Anna Ronkainen, who was racing with us last week, I remember, from Finland, and she's putting on a bit of spurt at the front. The hardest bits of the course that you can identify them in terms of gradient, because if you look at the bottom of your screen, to the rider with now we're with Verhagen, Ariel Verhagen, sorry, from the USA. So we're with Ariel at the moment, and she is, if we could see it, but we can't, you'll see at the bottom of your screen there's a green strip across. That's basically the profile of the race, and where that green goes a little bit brown, or in some places it might even go blue. Brown means you're going uphill, sort of orange, brown or red, and it there's a little bit near the beginning, a little bit near the middle, where the gradient goes up a little bit. And those are the places where I think we'll get the attacks. Like I say though, my instinct is that the attacks are probably going to happen in the latter stages of the race, when people need to make moves to get themselves somewhere. In the meanwhile, the group of 6, which was a little bit strung out, is back together again. There seems to be more than 6 riders there, but I suspect that's probably a back marker latched on for some reason, because it's certainly, if we look at Michon at the moment, and we're with Ariana Verhaeren again at the 6th place, and you can see that 3rd down to 8th is the group that are together, just 8 meters separating a lot of them. Pizza is behind, that's Angela Pizza, is another few hundred meters behind. So looking down the list, we can certainly see that Greece and we've got Angela Pizza here. Angela's still in that no man's land that we were talking about a little bit earlier, 800 meters behind Michon. As I say, I'm not 100% sure that Michon is going to stay qualifying. We're looking at 10th place here now. Herring, Carolus, it's Eva Marie Herring, and Carolus and Yvette, and let's say, where are they in the yeah, I mean they're 300 behind Pizza, and it's I think those sorts of gaps, I think somebody can drop off a group and get caught, but I don't think a group would naturally catch another group in front of it. Having said that, I think that the possibility is that a group of 6, if people ahead of them begin to tire, could catch them. The only thing is the people ahead of them in this instance are of course the 2 leaders, and I think the 2 leaders are out there for the duration, so I think it's reasonable to assume that I think the 2 groups will be the interesting ones, won't they? I mean, I suppose there's 3 groups. There's the 2 out the front, there's the Kate Ouellette group, and then there's the group of 6. So I think there's 3. The race has fallen into 3 parts, and this is the group of 6. But like I say, there's more than 6 riders in there. But I think they've picked up somebody from a back marker of some sort. So Jackie and Megan still stuck together like glue. Now we're obviously focused on Jackie at the moment. If you look at the bottom of your screen, as I was explaining earlier, you'll see that there's some little white dots. They're where the riders are. The big dot is the rider we're focused on, so that's Jackie Godby at the moment. There with Megan Isla, and these 2 are now just nearing a kilometre in front of the others with 26 kilometres to go. So I was saying that it might be between a kilometre or 2 kilometres gap between these two and the rest of the field. I think I'm going to be way off. I think it will be between 2 and 3 kilometres based on this. Of course, it doesn't mean they can sustain this for the whole race, but having said that, they look to be the two strong riders out there. They're followed by the group of 6, remember. Then we've got some solo riders, and there's a group of 3 to the ULEC group. So 3 races effectively to watch now. This has split itself into 3 races, shall we say. Now this is, say, the group of 6. There are 7 riders in it, and I've yet to work out who the person in the group of 6 who is not part of the group of 6 is. But as you can see, 1, 2, 3. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. It's, yeah, I can't work out which ones. Oh, 13. Yeah, so it's I see. So that's the Italian rider Mastek, which is the interloper there. In fact, there's 8 riders in the vicinity, but I think the other one being dropped off there is presumably a back marker they're overtaken. So, as I say, Master Bike from Italy is the one that shouldn't be there. We'll have to have a look at this group, I think, just to check out that there aren't any male riders in there that shouldn't be, because as I say, I think we've got 16 riders at the moment. I've got a feeling that Michon, the French rider, might be disqualified, and if there are any more, that changes the lineup. Now remember, of course, that this is a series, so everybody gets points for races ridden. The races is 2 on a weekend, and it's very difficult, I think, for a lot of people to be expected to do 2 races in a weekend. And bear in mind that we've got 40 kilometres today and 80 kilometres tomorrow, so that is asking riders to put a lot of effort in over 2 days. So those riders that only do 1 race will obviously fall behind those that can manage to do 2. And I'm quite interested looking at the table so far, because Anna Ronkanen, the Finnish rider who's in here currently in 4th place and is going to finish in Group 2, is the series leader. Now Anna did both races last weekend, scored herself massive 380 points, put herself in a very commanding position, just in front of Gabriella Schumann. But I don't see Gabriella Schumann in today's race, so theoretically Anna gets a great opportunity to put herself further ahead. In 3rd place, Eva Dora, who's not in this race. Remember, of course, though, that Gabriella and Eva may well be looking at tomorrow's race. They might have their eye on that, and with 80 kilometres to go, might have just decided to give this one a pass. Erska Koren is currently in 4th place, again not riding today, and in 5th place, guess what? It's Jacqueline Godby. Now, if Jacqueline can win today's race, or even in 2nd place, that would put her on around about where the same as or just above where Anna is at the moment. So, assuming Anna's going to score a hefty amount of points, would still leave her quite a drift of that. Now, most of the rest of the riders behind that are not racing today. I'm just looking down the list. I don't think there's any other races racing today. That I beg your pardon. Elisa Haag, she's currently in 7th place, sitting in 7th place in the series. Elise is currently in 5th place in the group of 6. So, 5th place overall, but she's within the group of 6. So Anna and Elisa all looking to score points. But as I say, don't read too much into this, because it might be that these ladies are not racing tomorrow, and in which case they will probably, any points made up today will be compensated for by some of the other riders I've just mentioned taking part in tomorrow's race. Now, tomorrow's race is an absolutely daunting one. I certainly think, from my perspective, ignoring one's availability and things like that, I would have picked today's race over tomorrow's. Tomorrow's has some, rather challenging climbs, and it also is 80 kilometres long. So, it's quite a daunting race, that one. Maybe somebody might find that it suits them because they, got that ability to stay and ride long. Now, you see the front 2 overtaking, so they're basically just overtaken 10th place So they've got something like another 7 riders, and bear in mind that's Pizza and the group of 6. It's Angela Pizza and the group of 6 ahead of them. This is quite a dominant race from Megan and Jackie. Ariel Verheeren is on the Zoom room. I don't know, can't see Jackie on there at the moment, but maybe she's keeping her cards close to close to us. We can't see what her face looks like. We'll have to see how that pans out. So if you heard a doorbell just behind you, unfortunately I've probably got somebody delivering something from Amazon. So as I say, there's let's having a look at this now. 1.34 kilometers between the front two, and Lisa Haag and from Germany, and Ariella Verheeren from the UK, Anna Ronkanen from Finland, part of that group too. I think as this series goes on, it'll be quite interesting to see how many races the girls enter in order to clock up points. So I'm just going to have. I think I'm just going to have to go and answer that doorbell. So could you give me about 30 seconds break there, please? Right, all back, all sorted. It's so 1.35 kilometers distance between the first two and third place. So the group of 6 still tidy and together, and so 1 point. Actually, I've just narrowed the gap a little bit down to 1.28 kilometers between Megan and Jackie. Maybe they're working together. Maybe there's a little bit of fatigue setting in the front too. That wouldn't be a total surprise. I mean, we're just coming up to halfway in the race, so we've just done the halfway stage. So that's 8 laps out of 16 done. Be interesting to see the Megan wiping some sweat off there. I hope you've all got the fans on full blast there, ladies. It's and a nice mat under the bike. I must admit, when I first got one of my when I first got my indoor trainer, I wasn't aware of how much I was going to sweat, and it took me a little while to realise that I absolutely needed a fan. Jacqueline Godby, Megan Isla, now up with Angela Pizza, and that means that they've only got the group of 6 in front of them now, haven't they? So they've just about overtaken everybody bar the group of 6. Now the group of 6 might be a bit of a challenge to catch. The gap between them is now 1.37 kilometers, but it's gone into 1.4. It was 1.28 last time I looked before that. So it's easing out a little bit, but at 10 it's going out sort of 10 meters here and there. whether or not they'll catch them. So I'm just thinking if they've made up sort of 1.5 kilometres over half the course, and if you assume you're going to get 3 kilometres over the whole thing, it's interesting to see whether they're going to catch them or not. It's going to be very, very tight, isn't it? I think the group of 6 might hold out, and bearing in mind they've got the effect of the draft and everything else like that, it's probably, I would imagine the gap is coming up. You know, the gap's increasing, isn't it? Jackie's still off the Zoom room, so we won't know how she's looking. Megan seems to be putting in some effort there, doesn't she? She is going for it. You go, girl. You're doing a fantastic job. Erin Ayla and Ariel Vaharan making up the Zoom room for us today. All doing it inside the house as well. It's an interesting thing. I tend to ride in the garage, which I suspect, and I would like to think, gives me the advantage that the temperature is slightly lower than inside the house, certainly in the winter months. Now, I think what is interesting about this is that Jackie has spent, every time we've looked, Jackie seems to be on the front. So Jackie is towing Megan around the course. Now, this could be Megan being very, very smart and letting Jackie do the work, or maybe Megan's hanging on, and we don't know, do we? And neither does Jackie. And it's quite interesting that I think Megan's getting the best result. Now, if Megan's got a good sprint, that could be absolutely devastating for Jackie. If Jackie has got the power to keep going, there's one or two things happen. I think you just reach the point where Megan can't sit on your wheel forever, and or Jackie has a sprint anyway, so we shall see. But Megan's right, she's riding superbly. I mean, this is you know, to sit on somebody's wheel that close takes a little bit of discipline. I was explaining earlier in this, if you've ever done team time trialing on this, it takes a bit of effort to get to that point where you can actually just sit on somebody's wheel without sort of yo-yoing backwards and forwards as if you're on a piece of elastic. So we're at only 1.4 2 kilometres gap between the front 2 and the 6 now. So my feeling is that the front 2 are not going to catch the group of 6 in the race, which I think is quite a positive thing, in the sense that, as terrific as the front 2's ride is, I think it doesn't need to be too emphatic to keep the race this way. If the race is more competitive, I think there's some advantages to be had there, as much as we admire emphatic rides in the way that Jackie and Megan are putting off the front, and particularly Jackie, because she's doing more work on the front as far as I can tell. So chapeau, ladies. It's phenomenal at the front, and I still think it's entertaining, because there's 2 of you going to be duking it out over this second half. Jackie just pulling away a little bit there. Could this be the point where the elastic snaps, or has Megan got that ability just to get back on? Megan seems to keep pulling back on, doesn't she? You see this in racing quite often, don't you, where there's certain riders, and you particularly, I was using the analogy earlier of the mountain stages. They're on a descent now. Sometimes some riders, for reasons I never quite work out, seem to be quite good at descending. If I could work out how they did it, I'd be doing it. I certainly get left behind on some descents and struggle to work out what I'm doing wrong to not keep up with it. So, but like I say, Megan's just got back on, and as I was saying, you know, you see this in some of the top pro racing, don't you, where a rider is, you know, one rider will put in a little bit of a spurt and, you know, eke 20 meters out, and you think the rider behind hasn't responded and isn't able to keep up, but in actual fact, what they do is just marginally increase their tempo and catch up that 20 meters, you know, over the next couple of 100 meters or something like that, by just pacing it out. It's I think probably, I mean, again, we're all made slightly different, and we all have different talents and aspects of the way we ride, but I think if you keep explosively accelerating on those hills, and I know we're not on the hill today, then I think it can be quite wearing. So I think those riders who know they've got it within them to just sit there and up the tempo very, very slightly without exerting too much force, can just reel these people back in. And don't forget that if somebody has done an explosive sprint off the front, they might have actually just tired themselves, and they're unlikely to be able to sustain it. And of course, then there's people like Roglic who just explode and go up the mountain and nobody sees them again. But that's another story, and he's not riding today. This is the ladies' race. Remember, it is a qualifier for the UCI World Championship e-racing, 26th of February, the final. It's also part of the Echelon Community Split Series, so there's points to be had here. And some of the ladies in this group of 6 are definitely... sorry, we're not on the group of 6 here. This is further back. So I'm just looking at the avatars. I think Michon is it's definitely a male avatar, isn't it? And we'll have to see what happens. So Michon might be discounted for all of this, but this is the further back group, and there's still some behind them. They're going to have their own little race, I suppose, is the way to look at it. And Angela Pizza there, poor girl, all on her own, and she's still got that tantalising 200 metres on the group behind, Kate Ouellette's group. I think Angela, she might finish 9th, but it probably is the hardest race out of the lot, because she, I ignore, unfairly ignore Jackie on the front there, but I think Angela Pizza has done this all solo. She's maintained that gap in front of the group behind her, whilst not being quite able to make up group in front of her. So it's quite hard to do this, and I think we don't underestimate just how hard it is. And you might argue, for example, if Angela had been in one of the groups and had to do less work, she might have, let's say, been sailing away and had a lot of strength at the end. But she's ridden a stoic race, 200 metres ahead of Krulus. All right, she's over a kilometre behind 7th place, or 8th place, sorry, in the group of 6. But nevertheless, I think Angela Pizza is one of the stars of this race, actually, because she's had to do most of it solo. That's my view. You can take your own view and write in and give us your other alternative views if you like. There's certainly a lot of heroes out here today, aren't there? I think even those further back. 13th, Greece is now, I suppose, what, over 2 kilometres. What are we over there? She's probably about 4 or 5 kilometres off the front now. But yeah, you carry on and you keep doing it, don't you? It's the way it should be done. Carrera, the French lady, riding here in 14th position, and she's quite a way off the front, but 2.5 kilometres in front of Mustak. And if you remember, Mustak did get a little bit of a pull from the as the group of 6 go by. Now you see, there is, I think it's telling how well that group of 6 are doing, because what somebody in Carrera's position might choose to do at that point is, as they come by, just up your pace a little bit, get into that group, and just see how long you stay in it, and buy some kilometres in a group. But she didn't. I don't know whether she was surprised by them coming up and coming around her. I know sometimes I look what's behind me, and if I see a group coming up, I start speeding up just before they reach me, so that I'm going at a faster tempo and can get into that group and sit on it, see how long I can get round, and it buys me a little bit of easier riding for a lap or two, and ups my position and time, hopefully. Still, we've got this thing where Jackie's on the front and Megan tight on her wheel. This is going to come down to some canny racing. 13 kilometres to go, so we're probably we're riding at 43 kph, so we work that one out, but we're probably 20 minutes away from the finish. And Jackie's back on the Zoom room and looking determined and focused. And Megan's looking pretty determined and focused herself, so she's looking calm and collected. So these are our two front runners, the two on the right there. Jackie Godby, who's been absolutely phenomenal off the front today, and Megan, who's just sat on her wheel and done everything asked of her to stay there. So this is going to be quite a finish, I think. We'll see what happens. I think anything into the last I don't know, 3 or 4 laps, Jackie might have a plan. Who knows? But Jackie's looking pretty strong. I mean, she does keep doing this, and there's this little, it's like a little bit of elastic here, as we see that Megan's just pulls off, but look, slowly gets back on. No panic from Megan here. It's all just up the tempo and come back again, like I was describing. You get these sort of cat and mouse games. Who knows? Jackie might be expending a lot of power trying to see if she can drop Megan. She's probably getting very infuriated that Megan's sitting on her wheel, and that's interesting though, isn't it? Because when Megan does pull up, which one did Megan slow down or did Jackie speed up? Because if Jackie wants to be on the front, that would be a very interesting tactic. Or maybe Megan slowed down because she didn't want to go on the front. Who knows? It's a shame we don't get to interview them afterwards, isn't it, and find out what they were thinking. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I'd love to do that. I'm not sure if I've just ridden one of these. You see the little drop there in the road. I don't know whether that's meant to be there or not. I mean, bearing in mind that this is based on a circuit they actually do use for racing down in St. Louis, Missouri. I suspect that's just one of those little things that you get when you build one of these magic roads. You have to go around and sort of smooth out those little ramps, and sometimes the odd one just gets left in there. Fortunately, it's a downhill one, so nobody's going to complain. But sometimes you get one of those slightly going uphill. It can throw everybody's pace out. That one was downhill, so we won't worry too much about that. It's a little bit of work building the magic roads, but I build a lot in my local area here in West London. I run races every other Wednesday night on RGT and have been doing so for a year or so. Our second anniversary this spring, and I've been building courses based on all our local roads, and as you can see, the scenery is different, as I explained earlier. And you get the knack of how to do these roads and make sure that they are as smooth as you can possibly be, but you can't get every little divot out. This one doesn't have too many bumps anyway. You can see from the bottom, only on the far left of the profile at the bottom of your screen does it sort of really go anything darker than a sort of orangey yellow. Orangey yellow are uphills, blues are downhills, red is very steep uphill, very dark blue is very steep downhill, and green is flat or relatively flat. You can see here this little group of 6 going up a small little incline. You can see it went very orangey, not very orangey, slightly orangey in the bit they just passed, and that was where they would have gone up. Still facing a gradient of 0.3%, which would register as green on that color-coded profile at the bottom of your screen. So the only really tricky bit is quite near the beginning of each lap on your left-hand screen. We can see it does sort of go a little bit orangey, and there's a little bit sort of near the middle where there's that very small rise. But do remember, if we look at Lisa Hart pushing out just under 200 watts, 76 cadence, 166 heartbeat, and so she's so I mean speed of 34 kph this is, of course, so that's probably about right. I would say probably not winning speeds, but as I say, this is quite cute because I think this group of 6 is now just going to duke it out in the final lap or so. I think the weaker sprinters will try and go solo somewhere like possibly with 1 lap to go. I mean, I think if you try and burst out with 500 meters to go, you better be strong, because a group will catch you. On the other hand, if we look at the dynamics of a group of 6, which is not a large peloton, 1 solo off the front with a kilometre to go could actually do it if nobody really wants to lead the chase. But certainly out of the front 2, I mean, if either Jackie or Megan goes with a kilometre to go and breaks the elastic, then that will probably be enough. We shall have to wait and see. So we're under 10 kilometres to go now in this race, and no change. There's Jackie pushing out the watts at the front. As I say, third, Echelon, French rider. I think that's a male avatar, so we have to be dubious about whether that position is going to qualify once all the judges go through the results. And we have 3 Germans in. No, we don't. Sorry, I think it's 1 German, isn't it? No, 2 Germans. It's sorry, the keeps moving. So in the group of 6, we have. We're not looking at the group of 6, are we? So we're in the other group, aren't we? The one that's chasing Pete. So this is a group of 3. So what we have is Kate Ouellette, Carolus, and Eva Herring in this little group, working together nicely, I would imagine. And again, the same. All the thoughts that we were describing earlier must be going through their heads. Can I win the sprint? In actual fact, I'm just pleased to be, sometimes you might just be pleased to be in that group, and you think, well, if I come 3rd in this group, it's better than being in the group behind. So Angela Pitzer, who I think deserves an absolute she's a star. She's going to finish 9th, but I think in fact, she'll probably be 8th, won't it? Because I think Michon probably will get disqualified, so she gets a bonus place anyway. But I think she's been an absolute star. She's done the whole race solo, held off the group of 3 behind. It's a shame, probably, that she didn't manage to get in the group of 6, because she's clearly a strong rider and would probably be doing quite well if she'd managed to stay in it. So, group of 6 still going away. Elisa Haag and Ariella Verhoeven. Who else have we got in there? Erin Ayala and Wagner, German rider. I'm not sure of her first name. Maybe we can have a look at Wagner. Who's in 8th place in actual fact. And he's the other German, in fact. Wagner just going on the front for a moment there. In front of Elisa Haag, now taking it over. So 2 Germans in the group of 6. I was stumbling over that a little bit earlier, wasn't it? Anna Rankanen and Ariella Verhoeven. And Michon, as I say, I'm going to commentate on the assumption that Michon is not going to qualify for a place in this race, because it's a male avatar. We can't tell from the names, of course. Sometimes there's a little bit of a giveaway when we flash the name up on those ones too. But anyway, so we are 7 kilometres from the end. Not long to go now, and Jackie doing another one of those little puts down the pressure on the front. Can Megan stay there? Megan drifts back, maybe 10 metres there, but slowly claws it back again. It's the same thing. This bit of elastic always pulls Megan back, doesn't it? The 2 US riders absolutely storming it. So I think it's fair to assume with 6.7 kilometres to go that the qualifier for the World Championship Finals on February 26th will be one of our American ladies on the front. Which one? I really don't know. You're both absolute stars, ladies. I think the way you've taken this race to everybody else is phenomenal. Well done, Jackie, for being on the front all day. Megan, for managing to stay on her wheel. He's obviously been digging in front of you. My other star rider of the day, Angela Pizza, just for riding solo in between the groups and maintaining distance from the one behind. Phenomenal. But we might still have some surprises to go. I mean, the group of 6, I mean, the final bits of their race could be absolutely explosive, and we have that group of 3 too, don't we? So, well, I don't switch off yet, because this has got plenty to play out yet. So, group of 6 here, Lisa Haag, and on the front there, just in front of Ariella Verheeren from the USA. Coming up on the outside there is, or on the inside now, Anna Reinkanon. Remember, Anna is quite well placed in the series rankings, so these are, well, she's, when I say well placed, she's actually in first place, but I think Anna is going to be, she may not qualify for the World Championships, but I think Anna is going to be very happy with today's results. As I say, there is another race tomorrow. Whether or not Anna's going to take part in that, I don't know. And that's the thing. If you take part in every race, you may not even need to win the series. You don't need to win the races, is what I'm trying to say. So somebody like Anna could be sitting here saying, well, 60, I'm going to sit in this group, that's fine. I've got another big race tomorrow, pick up some more points tomorrow, and the series starts looking like it might be going to Finland. And very fair play to you, Anna. You might argue that somebody could do all the races and not win any and still win the series. My answer to you would be, what's wrong with that? Because they've ridden more kilometres than somebody who turns up once in a while and wins. You've got to be in it to win it, and if you're in it regularly, you've got a good chance of winning it. So I think strategically, Anna might be one to watch here as we go through the series. Certainly, if she races tomorrow, I think we can assume. I love that kit that Erin Hurler has. I'm not sure what kit that is actually, but it's certainly a bit classy, isn't it? That sort of purple and orange with the chain links in the middle, in a little circle. Nothing different on the front apart from the distance left. We have Jackie pushing out the watts on the front, and Megan sitting there slyly on her wheel, taking all the benefit of the slipstream. 4.5 kilometres to go. I think this is probably going to get tense. I'm sure the two girls are now sort of sitting there wondering what the other one's feeling like. I'm wondering what you're both feeling like. So it's absolutely cracking race, this, isn't it? I mean, we've got 3 races here. We've got the 2 girls on the front, which is like a game of chess. We've got the group of 6, and we think, my guess is they're going to stick together for a little while yet. But that'll all explode towards the end. Then we've got Angela Pizza, who's, if she holds that position between the 2 groups, having ridden solo for so long, has to get some sort of accolade. And then we've got the group of 3. So, if you want some entertainment, you know where to come. ZMS, Echelon Racing, Community League, and we've got plenty more to come. Don't forget there's a men's A race and a men's B race, hand cycling and special bikes race still to come today, and that all of them are going to do another race tomorrow, 80 kilometres tomorrow. Well, I would sort of bring in the sort of sandwiches and tins of drink and sit down and make yourself comfortable for watching that. Sure, it's going to be an absolute thriller. Can't wait to see how many ladies turn up for that one and which ones, because there's quite a few who are doing well in the series who aren't in this race, and if they all tussling with each other for points tomorrow, that could be an interesting race vis-a-vis the overall standings in the Echelon Community Series Ladies Open League. Now, it'd be interesting to again, we can't ask them, but be interesting to know what they thought. I mean, some people, because this is a World Championship qualifier, might have looked at it and said, well, if everybody enters for the World Championship, I might be further down the field and not get some points, so I'll go for the long one tomorrow. Other people might have looked at it and said the long one's quite a long one, that's going to be a bit attritional, let's go for the short one. Who knows? And of course, until you get on the start line, you don't know who else is racing, so you don't know what the others done. I think Anna Rankanen has made a good call, actually, because if she gets a decent position out of that group of 6, any disappointment in not qualifying for the World Championships is going to be more than compensated for by the fact that she will go sliding up that Echelon Community Series League, Open League for the ladies. She's going to go sliding up that table. So, 2.6 kilometres to go with these front 2. I think we have to stick with these 2 now for 2.6 kilometres, because this and Jane's pushing out. That's quite a big gap. That's one of the bigger ones I've seen. Can Megan Islas, can she respond? She has again. She's done it again. She's done it again. She's got, there's tenacity in both these girls, aren't they? Aren't they fantastic? They are just absolute stars. And Jackie goes again. Megan fighting to stay on. Is Megan just teasing? Megan could just be playing her. She could have the sprint of all sprints. 2.2 kilometres to go. Jacqueline Godby leading Megan Islas, as she has been for most of the race. This is going to be phenomenal. We're down to the last 2 kilometres. Jackie goes again. Megan's not letting her go. The girls must be absolutely breathing out of every orifice and dripping sweat like a torrent. This is phenomenal. You keep going, girls. You're entertaining us superbly. 1.9 kilometres to go. Oh, come on. I just can't work out what's going to happen on this one. Because Jackie looks a strong rider, but I think Megan's determination to stay on, because Megan was willing to settle for second. She could sit up now and she would get second. She clearly is not settling for second, in my view. 1.6 kilometres. We're coming down to the last lap or so. This is cracking stuff. Jackie's still on the front. Is she going to burn herself out, or has she got that little bit extra just to leave Megan, as she has pushed ahead of Megan so many times? They're catching up with 6th place. I said they wouldn't do that. I was wrong, didn't I? I was wrong. They're going to catch us. I was almost right. I mean, I said they wouldn't quite catch these guys, but they've just done it. So they will be 1 lap ahead. So as soon as they finish, we can go over to the group of 6 and watch that tussle. But fair play. If they get past this little group before the finishing line, they've lapped everybody in the race. Michon, as I say, dubious, just falling off the pack, so it might be a group of 5. Jackie going for it. Megan just getting driven. Sometimes when you go past the group, there is a tendency to get on the wrong wheel, but I think Megan would have been absolutely focused on which wheel she was following. So they've overtaken everybody on the whole race now, and everybody is at least 1 lap behind. Megan's still sitting there, fighting. They go over that little bump we talked about earlier, that probably isn't meant to be there, but it doesn't really matter because it's downhill. This is fantastic. Jackie's pushing out 5 kilowatts per. This is 5 watts per kilo. Sorry, she's pushing out 5. You can see Megan's quite a bit lower at 4. So there's quite a bit of saving. Now that's interesting because Michon has caught up. So maybe the group of 6 are just latched onto their wheels almost. Not particularly what we want. I think we don't want a muddled sprint, and we don't want anybody, the wrong people leading anybody out. Oh, look at Megan go! She has played this superbly. We did wonder. She sat on Jackie's wheel the whole way round, made use of Jackie's hard work, made out that she was being dropped here and there and crawled her way back on, but she had what it took at the end. I did say just in the run up to that if she had any notion of settling for second, I think she could have sat up in the last lap because no one was going to catch her, which suggested to me she was going for the win. Absolutely superb sprint. You have to commiserate with Jackie. You know what it's like. You do all that work, you spent the whole day on the front, and the person who sat on your wheel steals it from you like that at the end. But that is bike racing, and that's how you have to play the game. Hats off to both of you ladies, fantastic. Jackie for the hard work, and Angela Pitzer better in ninth for a similar amount of effort. Megan, yeah, you played it really cute, girl. That was that was proper racing. That was proper racing. Cruel on Jackie, but superb, Megan. Megan Isla will ride in the UCI World Championships on the 26th of February. Now, we're back on the group of 6. I call it the group of 6. I think there's only 5 riders that, in my view, really count for this. I think Jane Michon is probably male and maybe disqualified, but I'm only basing that on the avatar, so it may just be an error. And if you're wondering why the group of 6 is actually 8, that's because there's a couple of other riders caught up in it. Herring, for example, is not in the group of 6, so this might confuse the sprint, but and in fact, don't look at the data on the screen at the moment, because the camera is following Herring, who's in 14th place, and will not. So 1.7 kilometres to go, 1.6 kilometres to go for our actual group of 6. So it's going to be a little bit tricky deciphering who's what. So we've got the Kate Ouellette in there as well, modelling up that group. So it's not. That's just a bit confusing now, isn't it? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9. The group of 6 and the group of 3 are together, which is going to make the sprint a little bit confusing if they don't split up. And the other thing is, Kate Ouellette might have just pulled a trick there. Oh, things are ratcheting up in the group of 6, I think, because they realise the sprint's coming. And it's Anna Räikkönen, who is current series leader, going for it. Oh, look at that. That's straight off the front. Erin Ayla, no, but that hasn't stuck. Anna's back again, kilometres to go. This is too early for a sprint, really. Herring there, of course, is in the group of 3, not the group of 6. So there's group of 6 are coming up to the finish, under a kilometre to go. There's 3 riders in there who are not on their last lap, so this is all a little bit confusing, and if you are one of the riders, you need to be following the right wheel. Now Anna's gone for it again, and I think the group of 3 probably aren't responding in the same way, in the sense that they're not fighting for a finishing line here. If you're in the group of 7, group of 6, then you have to. Kate Ouellette going off the front there. Now this might be tactical as well, because she probably works out that if the other riders in her smaller group of 3 are following the wrong wheel and she gets off the front, she might buy herself some space, but it hasn't stuck. What we've got off the front is Erin Ayla, and Anna's gone for it again. Anna wants the points. I mean, I'm sure Anna wants the points. She's gone too early though. I mean, to my mind, 300 metres is too early if you're really going to sprint out of a group this size. But Anna's certainly going off the front. Maybe if she can get a gap. She's just pulling out a little bit of a gap now. She's going for it. 180 metres, that's quite a lot. And we get Ariella Verheyen, who's chasing her down. I think Ariella and Erin Ayla are going to beat Anna, but Anna forward a little bit there. She ends up in 5th place, so she lost a rack of points on the line there. But I think she did go a little bit too early. And the other girls did well to bring her down, to catch her up and bring her in, reel her in anyway. So next up to finish with 2.6 kilometres to go. So that's a mark of how big the gap was between the group of 6 and Angela. But Angela, of course, is in fact, actually, she's been caught, hasn't she? That's interesting. In fact, the group of 3 have caught Angela Felicis, because she hasn't managed. She's done all that solo riding, and with two laps to go, has been caught by the group of 3 again, which I didn't predict. Interestingly, 8th there, Michon, who I think is a man, is called Julien as well. I suspect that the French Julien, if it was a lady, would probably have a double N-E at the end. So I'm fairly sure that 8th place is going to be a disqualification, but we speculate, of course. The other French rider there, Crackers, looking far more legitimate based on the avatar. Now, poor old Angela Pitzer, I've been bigging her up all through this race, because I thought she was going to hold that gap from the group of 3. Don't forget though, the group of 3 have had that extra spurt because they got they got into the group of 6 and took the slipstream. So maybe maybe that's just one of those things that a bit tough on Angela after all that work, that they got that little boost and caught there. She might have held it out. 1.8 kilometres to go. My gut instinct is that the boost the group of 3 got from getting into the group of 6 was probably the undoing of poor old Angela. But Angela, I think you can be proud of your ride, girl. You know, take some pride, and don't forget, of course, you take it a bit easier if you stay with these lot, and who knows, maybe pip them on the line. Just have a look at the times on your right. So Megan Easler, who did that phenomenal sprint at the end, Jacqueline Godby, who did all the work on the front throughout the race, just pipped very, oh, it's such a shame, in the points 0.07 of a second. And Erin Arela and Ariel Verhaeren just pipping Anna Ronkainen from Finland at the end. They were over 4 minutes behind the front 2, but they all came in the clutch, as you can see, right down to Julien Michon, who we think will be disqualified, because we've got a feeling that might be a male rider in the women's race. And Elisa Haag and Dana Wagner, the Germans, taking up 6th and 7th place. So who will get, with 1 kilometre to go, we've now got a group of 4 tussling this one out. So we've got Eva Herring, Angela Pizza, Karoulas, Sarah Karoulas, and Kate Ouellette as our 4 as we go down to 800 metres. All tightly together at the moment. I think everybody would be pleased if Angela Pizza got this, just for the work effort she's put in. But one has to say that when you've ridden solo for that long on your own, if you've got the legs left for a sprint, then that's be very surprising. So it's basically Deutschland versus the United States of America here. Sarah Karoulas, Eva Herring, Kate Ouellette, and Angela Pizza, the 4 riders. The Germans in that white and black kit, not too dissimilar from the German national football team's kit. I don't know if that's a coincidence or it's not. Sponsored by Rose Bikes there. I should know the name of their team, but I can't remember. Kate Ouellette riding for Team Lou, which is Lou Rick's team. 200 metres to go. No signs of anybody really going for a sprint. I guess Karoulas going to sneak out from the back. Certainly some riders do know how to do this, but here they go. It's the Germans going for it. It's going to be the Germans. Is it? Yeah, I think. Oh, I don't know. Angela Pizza. Oh, not quite. So Germany, USA. Kate Ouellette slightly dropped. Angela Pizza not quite making up on the first of the group, but certainly clawing back 1 place, as we can see from the results. No, we can't see from the results. They're not quite up yet. They'll be up in moments. Don't worry. So as I say, Angela Peets just beating Sarah Karoulas on the line, but not quite getting up to Eva Herring in that little duel. So that's most of the riders back now down to 12th. We've got a couple still out riding. Grease from Germany, Carora from France, who's a legitimate French rider. We've got between 3.8 and 5 kilometres to go, so there's a few laps for those 2 ladies to go. I don't think there's going to be any tussle on the line. I think 13th and 14th places are going to go to Greece and Carora, from Deutschland and La France, respectively. So I think we know quite how the thing's going to pan out. I think everybody in 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th will end up in 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th. Eva Marie Herring, as I say, just pulling out the best of the sprinters there. The gaps are very small, and you can see that at 9th, 10th and 11th, according to that list, all on the same time, although you can see the slight differential in the seconds in the plus figure just next to it, showing how far they were behind the actual winner. So it was an 8-minute gap from the winners. So I suppose they're reasonably equidistant, aren't they? So the winning group was 4 minutes in front of Group 2. Group 3 was another 4 minutes behind that. And I think that Greece is about another 4 minutes, probably still to go. I'm guessing probably a bit more actually. Now let's assume that's a little bit more. I'm afraid. No, 3 kilometres. No, they're not going to do it. So anyway, that's the ladies' race. We're 3 minutes away from the start of the men's A race, so I think we're probably going to have to go over to that. I suspect we've probably got some adverts to play in the meantime. As I say, I think you can safely assume, apart from the Tecanicals, that Greece and Carora are going to finish 13th and 14th. So that's your lineup. Well done, Megan Isla. Chapeau to Jacqueline Godby for a phenomenal ride on the front. So cruel at the end. I have to say my other star ride, Angela Peets, down there in 10th, mainly because she had to ride solo, and I admire that. Well done the group of 6 for making a really good race of it, with the exception of Julia Michon, who we don't think should be there, and the 2 ladies still on the course. Good luck, hope you get back in time, and as I say, I think we can predict those are the results. So we should be able to have a couple of adverts and then flip over to the men's A race, which is starting very, very soon. Same course, and I think as you saw from the little clip when we flashed over a moment ago, that's going to be quite a big field, so that could be quite an interesting and explosive race. Look at that. How we got 63 riders online for this World Championship qualifier with 2 minutes to go. Expect a few more to log on in that 2 minutes. It happens, and I'll be back for the start. Or contribute points for everybody towards that series. And they're off. And the race has started. You have to pedal like mad at these starts, and then it tends to sort of pull itself back together, get into a peloton. And we see some familiar names on there. You can see how strung out it is. See how strung out it is just as we go around that bend. 1 or 2 people will not quite stay on that, and that's, in terms of winning the race, that's their race over. But this is a key point in the race. If you can get into the peloton now, you can sit in. So as you can see, it's a 44-kilometre race. It's 16 laps of this course in Benton Park in St. Louis, Missouri. Now it's basically flat. There's if you look along the profile along the bottom, you'll see it goes a bit sort of orangey in the bottom left-hand corner, and there's some teasing almost orange in the middle. There are a couple of places where the gradient momentarily hits about 4.9%, I think, but it's not long, and I think you can assume that the riders, certainly the peloton, will not be affected by that. I mean, somebody might drop off the back, but I don't think it'll be too bad. As we see Mark Rowbottom from Ratio Racing in that familiar Ratio orange and black kit in second place now, tussling with Bard and Revel at the front. 3 British riders as it happens. Mike Lister in there as well, making it 4 British riders. Mike Lister down there in Torquay in the southwest of England. But now they've all been pushed to one side by Bouchard Howe from the USA. I wouldn't read too much into this. You can see the size of the peloton. It's quite large. There might be 40 to 50 riders. Kevin Bouchard Howe is the US rider who's usurped everybody on the front, and he is riding on home turf, I suppose. I don't know whether whereabouts any of these people come from. Liam Bard, one of the British riders that is on that little group at the front. I wouldn't read too much into this. I think they'll go up and down the peloton. And what you might see is certainly as they go around each lap, you might see the odd rider just drop off at that early point where it goes orange on the profile at the back. We've just watched the ladies' race. I don't know whether you've been watching with us or not. There is one little bump down the course, which I don't think really matters, but the uphill bit didn't do too much damage from what I could see in the race. I think in the peloton like this, though, somebody does want to push hard on the front. And if you look at the bottom now, you'll see that the white dots along the bottom are where riders or groups of riders are. The big blob, the bigger white one, is the rider we happen to be following at any one given point. And you can see we're just coming to the end of the lap, which means we're just hitting the other side of it now. We're just about to hit that point where we go up the slope. Now it might be that if somebody on the front of the main peloton pushes up that little bit of gradient, somebody might drop off the back who can't quite hold that pace, and the peloton might thin. And with so many laps, 16 laps, well 15 left obviously for the front group, that is going to attritionally lose a few people off the back. But I still think we'll end up with a large peloton on this one. It's just too flat to thin out the field, is my expectation, as these guys further back finish their first lap. Mike Lister just chasing down Gavash. The British and the Americans certainly are dominating the front positions for some reason in these early stages. We have a transatlantic union of some sort, and certainly Zach Harner in there, Mike Lister, Jesse Seaman, Liam Bard. Just picking out some names. Some of these, quite a few names I'm not so familiar with. I'm not saying I know every racer on RGT, but it's fair to say that I think there's some riders here who are probably here just for this World Championship qualifying. And why not? If the World Championship qualifying race happens to be on RGT and that's not always your place, why wouldn't you sign up for RGT? It's absolutely free to get an RGT subscription. It's free to enter the races. There's nothing stopping you. And quite a good turnout in the Zoom room today. We have Jason Yeager, Jesse Seaman, Ryan Larson, Mike Serenke, who else is in? Will Harding, Oliver Dowd, Brian Hodges, Tony Gumbel, and Patrick Wale, I suspect. Not sure, probably pronounced that wrong. Well done, guys. And I do marvel at some of the cool faces that these guys have. They're clearly well conditioned and coping with it nicely. And again, just like the ladies' race, fascinated to see how many of these guys are actually doing it inside the home. I'll only say this without any data of who does what. It's just that I do mine outside in the garage, and you know, I kind of like doing it out there because the temperature's a bit lower and I don't get quite as hot. But Mike Swart, who's actually one of the guys who's very active within RGT, and I think he's pushing out 225, sitting in the peloton quite cleanly at 31st position. Yeah, so you don't have, this is the whole thing, you get a peloton this size, if you can get in it and stay in it, you've got a very good chance of getting a half decent position. And you look at these guys who've been you know, out the back here, 50th, Dujon, who I've come across before in these races, and he's a decent rider as I recall. He stuck out in 50, and this is probably just down to the fact that you didn't quite get on the peloton when it went flying off, and what have you. But it can be quite daunting trying to get back on the peloton if you are off the edge of it. Maybe he's on the back of it, I'm not sure actually. I might be, maybe he's not so far off. Maybe he's not so far off. Now this is strung a little bit. Just trying to see how far back the numbers go to get a view of how big this peloton is. I don't think that's 50 riders. So I think our man back there probably was off the back of that. Now, so that's quite a large peloton still though. We're seeing the numbers back like 31, 32 at the back. I don't think it's 50 though. So I would estimate no more than 40 riders now in the peloton. So the guys we were looking at the back in 50th place are off the top. Patrick Varley, he's the man, of course, in our Zoom room that we just saw in there, cycling with all the others. He's up there fighting out the top positions with lots of other Brits and Americans. It's top 11. Oh, there's an Australian player. No, is it Australia or New Zealand? So I think it's a New Zealand flag just coming. Mark Rowbottom, Rassier Racing, and that orange strip. I know Mark quite well. You see him in a lot of races, quite an active RGT man. And I think this is 6.5 kilometres in. I think this peloton's probably going to stick together. I think poor old Jerez at 42, which so that gives us, and if Jerez can't stay on, which it looks like, no, he's gone. I think if you were watching earlier, and 41, another pole now off the back. Oh, could he use 2 poles in one car? I don't know. I think Gacek might just get himself back on, and he has. Well done, Gacek. So 41 in there. Jerez long gone now, 170 metres. If you were listening to the commentary during the ladies' race, I was explaining that I think once you hit that 20 metres off the back, you will struggle to get back on unless you're an extremely strong rider. And I think we just saw that in that little scenario where, you know, you just wondered if you could stay on, and it got to 20, and all of a sudden it just flew up to 175. And I think there's some point, and I'm not the person to ask what it is, but at some point you lose the effect of the draft, and after that it's just going to kill you to get back on. And of course everybody's sitting in that peloton up front. It's highly likely that nobody's on the front for very long, so nobody's really wearing themselves down. As you see here, you saw Serenecki, well, it looked like he was going to the front, but it only said 4th. So if you watch Mike Sarnecki there, he went to the front and then sort of dropped back to 11th or 12th, and he wasn't on the front for very long, if at all. And somebody else will go to the front, but as they go to the front, somebody else will be around. You see Hodges just overtaken there by Mike Swart again. Is Mike Swart doing this deliberately? Possibly. I think Mike Swart may be, actually. Now, some of the riders are aware that if you do this sort of move, you're probably not going to go out survey for 35 kilometres, but you put pressure on the front, and if you make it thin, you just drop some more people off the front. The poor old Brian Hodges here is just sitting there in no man's land, dangling almost, because the peloton aren't really overtaking him, but he's not really catching Mike Swart either. Mike Swart might be putting in a bit too much effort for my money, too early. 10 kilometres, 10 metres for that distance, that amount of effort, is not worth it. And what are you going to do for 35 kilometres if you do break free? So I can only assume that Mike's doing this just to sort of see if he can spin a few people off the back with the pressure, and he's swept up again by the peloton. And we see Zoff Clays, who looked like he had a Ratio racing kit on. They're flying off the front, and yeah, as each person goes flying by, now you can see Daniel Marquez and a few others did drop off, so Mike Schwartz's tactics have lost us 3-1. Bad luck Daniel, Gasek, who we saw earlier, and Jackson. Daniel, he's got the Brazilian flag, but I know he lives in Portugal and runs a bike rental business, so I think it's in Porto, if I remember rightly. So if you're down there, go and see Daniel. He runs an excellent bike rental business. As we have a look around the Zoom room, Mike Schwart in there, he's pedalling at quite a cadence. Jaden Yeager at the top there, wiping his face. Ryan Larson with a jersey on, as is Brian Hodges. It's quite interesting to see how people dress, isn't it? I mean, some of them with nothing on, some people just I say nothing on the top half of the body, I should say. Let's correct this. This is a family show. Somebody's just got shooting off the front there, haven't they, in the blue jersey? And a few people looking to chase them down as they go around that bend. Oh, it's Alex Plaisir from Germany. Alex, they're one of the top riders that we see regularly on RGT races. As I say, at 34 kilometres to go, I think that's probably not a serious attempt by Alex to get off the front. But as we've just seen, we shed 3 riders, so we're down to 38 in the peloton. Keep doing this, guys, and you get it down to sort of, you get it down to sort of maybe 25, 30, and you certainly shed a couple of decent sprinters. It's worth everybody's while. Mike Lister now, the man from BCN and Torquay, joins Alex Plaisir off the front, both in the same kit. And I do know the name of this team, but I can't quite remember it now. They are based in the southwest of England, though, and it's a newly formed team, actually. My goodness, if only I could remember the name. It's shocking. It'll come to me, don't worry. But Alex Plaisir and Michael Wilson in that team. Zoff is now the man on the front. There's a little bit of stretch there, isn't there? But he's swept up quite soon, and nobody really particularly dropping off the back at that juncture, so I think that's just another case of somebody doing their 15 seconds of fame on the front, as Andy Warhol once phrased it. And Chris Nevin now in 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place, as he drops back and somebody else takes up the front of the peloton. Zach Harner in 2nd, and we see there's quite a few sort of regular names that you will see keep going to the front. And Mark Rowbottom up there again, we see. And Blodgett is the next one, David Blodgett. And Charlie Revel is the latest one to ping off the front and see what happens. Now that Charlie might have just actually stretched this one a little bit. There is a bit of stretching going on there, isn't there? So this one might have some effect. Pushing out 600, he's dropped down to 3 now, but margin just about hitting 600 watts there, which is phenomenal. And this is top racing, and it is a world championship qualifier. You can see that is stretching the peloton a bit. They're not hauling him down easily, and if they do chase and it stretches it even more, we could see some more riders going off the back. So it's stretching even more now. He's been caught by Kevin Bouchard-Howell, but now Kevin's just going off the front again, which will just have the effect of stretching this even more. I think we will probably lose at least one rider as a result of these 2 moves. That's my guess. I stress that it's a guess and not a prediction, because obviously I can't say with any certainty what's going to happen next. But Kevin Bouchard is putting out, getting, hitting well over 550 watts there. This is phenomenal output, and he's eked out a 30-meter gap. Now I don't know whether Kevin's, we're going slightly uphill. It's only sort of like, it's under 2%, but it is a place you can do some damage to the peloton. That is absolutely for sure. He's just overtaken a back marker there, but I'd be interested to see if there is, what the damage is off the back from this. Can't quite tell from the pictures, can we? But my instinct is that something. Oh yeah, there we are. Look, that we were in 38, and we've just lost the pole there. Kamoshevsky and the German Kudlisha have just gone off the back, so that's lost us 2 riders. Duval, great name by the way. That's the French drink that I've drunk far more than I should have done over the years. It's Pastis. I'm just behind a Frenchman, Olivo, and there's people off the back. They're struggling to stay on, aren't they? I don't know how much damage that's going to do, whether we'll get any more loss off the front, but once my prediction was right, we did lose riders off the back, and Kevin Bouchard still pushing out of the front. Larson and Bleakley, the New Zealander, just following up, and then a whole array of Americans. This is used with Brearley from the UK just interloping there a little bit. So overtake Kevin Bouchard. Bleakley, the New Zealander, is now the man on the front. This is a little clutch. Aaron Bleakley, great racing, Aaron. Suitably for New Zealand, are in all black. If you don't quite follow the reference, the New Zealand All Blacks are probably their most famous sporting team, and they play rugby union. So if you're not from a country that plays rugby, that probably won't mean a lot to you, but New Zealand probably over the history of rugby, if not the greatest nation, should we say, certainly in modern times, they've been phenomenal. I'm not a rugby fan, so I can't give you the data, but I'm very aware of the All Blacks and that wonderful little chant they do at the beginning of every match to intimidate their opponents. So Aaron just getting a little bit of respite as Harding takes on the front. We have another look at the grimaces in the Zoom room, and I don't know. They all have different styles, don't they? It's quite interesting, isn't it? I see William Zugab's camera is in an interesting position. Not quite sure. I assume that the camera is not from his PC laptop then, in that instance. Most of the rest of them are more conventional. Monsieur Mendizabal, got a side camera there, but I suspect that's one you just place on the shelf or something like that. But maybe William Zugab's has fallen on the floor or something. Who knows? Well done, guys. Once again, it's interesting, isn't it, that everybody's inside their houses. I must be the only freak that actually goes out and does it in the garage. Or maybe these people live in flats. Maybe that's what it is. But well done, guys. You're all looking much more relaxed, professional, and likely to achieve something than I ever possibly could on one of those things. So going back to the race, now we still have a lot of American flags and a few UK ones interlocked by Canada and New Zealand. It's very English-speaking nations on the front of this, isn't it? It's I don't know if that's coincidence or not. It's certainly based on North American start times. Well, I have to say, for those of us in Europe, this is not the worst time. I mean, I think this is quite a cute time to do a weekend race. I think it's was it Eastern time or 11 a.m. in your time? I can't remember, but certainly in London here it was about 4:30 or something like that. 5 o'clock, isn't it? Yeah, it's 5 o'clock in the UK in the afternoon, so that's quite palatable on a Sunday for a lot of us. So sorry, Sunday, it's a Saturday, isn't it? There is another race tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow's race is going to be an absolute corker. It's down in Colorado, and it looks a monster. It's the Iron Horse race. Charlie Revel going off the frontier, UK rider. As I say, 28 kilometres to go. I don't think Charlie's really going for solo glory, but I certainly, as we've seen, every time somebody does this, it thins the peloton out and a couple of people drop off the back. So everybody's benefiting from these moves, and if all the strong riders all did one, they'd probably all be very grateful to each other. So Charlie Revel is the latest one. Looks like he's going to get caught by the peloton. That might not have been long enough to have really done any damage off the back, and the back of the peloton looks quite flat, so I'm not sure that particular one did any damage. And of course, remember, the thinner the peloton gets, you're probably whittling down to stronger and stronger riders, so there's people you're less likely to lose. As William Harding is the latest one to take a little poke on the front, and he sneaked out 30 metres, which actually that's quite a lot. That's probably the best one we've seen since Kevin Bouchard-Howell a few laps ago. In fact, that's gone out to 50 metres. That's phenomenal. Now, somebody's got to do something about this. I say that, they might just let him hang out to dry, because there might be an assumption is like, well, 27 kilometres to go. If you want to do that solo, mate, good luck. Certainly, if you did win from that far out against a field as strong as this, Liam Bard taking up the chase next, you would certainly probably have all your data looked at, I would imagine, before they let you into the World Championship. So it's 65 metres, that's quite a lot. It seems an odd move to me, I have to say. I wouldn't have expected somebody to pull at that. It's coming down a little bit now, 50 metres. I mean, I'm never quite sure whether I say people down. There's only one person. It's Bard that's pulling down Kevin Bouchard-Howell, a little bit behind. Kevin Bouchard-Howell coming up to Liam Bard now. Kevin giving it a big spurt off the front as well. Maybe the fact that this has been going on a little bit longer is going to do some damage. You can see there's three riders who are a little bit adrift at the back. We'll see Charlie Revel in third place now. There is a sizable gap, but it's not interesting. I don't think that's going to I don't think it's going to lose many people off the back this time. I just don't. Seems like William Harding, I mean, he's still got 60 metres to go. Is it a case of he's pulling away, or the peloton can't be bothered to chase him down, on the basis that you can't win this solo with 25 kilometres? So Brearley is the latest one to go off the back at 35th, and it looks like a couple. No, 34th is still on there, Duval. So we're down to 34. So we've lost we've lost about 8 or 9 riders in recent laps through these spurts off the front. Harding's up to 70 odd metres though. That looks very, very strong. And it surprised me on two fronts. I mean, one, that you can do it, and two, that why would you do that with so far to go? Because it's a big ask to sustain that with 25 kilometres to go. I think you can expect anybody that wins this race to get scrutiny as well. So just make sure it doesn't look too too unbelievable. But I think if you were to win this race with 25 kilometres, I think there's a breakout with 25 kilometres to go. I think that would be very, very suspicious. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe the peloton's going to reel him in, and they are beginning to. It's 50 metres now, So maybe that looks a little bit more credible. Maybe the peloton just weren't really chasing him down. So perhaps it will all come together again. 30 metres, Gavash, Kevin Bouchard-Howell, Mark Bruce, Zach Harmer, David Blodgett, Mark Rowbottom, all in the chase there. It is strong though there. You can see from that the white, sorry, the red, black, white and light blue jersey is OTR Racing, isn't it? So it's a bit strong there. Still got 34 in there though. Just these are the points where somebody, it's when it gets strung out like this, somebody just snaps off the back and can't quite get in there. There's an OTR rider there. Just got back in, just overtaken Odevo there. So no, these, you know, I think we can assume, as I said earlier, that the riders, you know, the 34 we've got left in this, and bear in mind, probably got 61 currently riding. So there's you've probably got the best 26. Sorry. It's not 30, it's 34. Zach Harner there, pushing out 240. It's quite interesting, isn't it, that if you get in one of these pelotons, and if you compare this to the ladies' race, for example, where the ladies were riding in much smaller pelotons and having to push out just under 200 watts at whatever speed they were going, and you can sit in this large male peloton going phenomenally faster and not doing that many more watts. You can probably earn, you know, maybe 20 more watts, you know, 220 or something like that, and you're getting just overtaking one of the cameras now. The point is that the effect of being in such a large peloton completely changes the speed at which you can ride, and I certainly in these sorts of races come out with something that, you know, when people look at my Strava and they see the time, they can't believe I've just ridden it. It's largely because I just sat in one of these groups and taken the benefit of 30 odd other people working hard. But so whereas the ladies race with less entrants, you know, they're not necessarily, I mean, they are putting out less watts, but it's not, you know, significant. It doesn't correlate in the sense that the fewer watts doesn't correlate to the drop in speed, but like I say, it's the peloton that does it. It really does. And remember as well, as I was saying earlier, you don't have to be in this peloton off the front for very long. If the front person just keeps changing, then anybody that has gone off the front hasn't put much effort in. I say that, and we look at Kevin Bouchard-Howell, who clearly has put a lot of effort in, because he's been off the front like this a few times, and this does take phenomenal effort. He is currently pushing out 6 watts per kilogram, which is high, and we're only mid-race. So that's, you know, I think testimony to if you're on the front of these men's races, and yes, they are putting out phenomenal amounts. If you can manage to sit in the middle or towards the back of one of these pelotons and not get dropped, you can ride well above your average, your normal average speed for the same amount of watts you'd normally ride. That said, as I said, once it gets stretched, if you do get caught out and you're not strong enough to stay on the back, your time in the peloton will end fairly quickly. And as I say, I reckon about 20 metres off the back, I don't think you're toast unless you're a very strong rider. That David Blodgett just sitting back in the saddle there after putting a bit of effort in. And I think that just shows you somebody on the front is putting in some effort in, and David's just sort of got up there to match it. And these little spurts can snap you, and you don't necessarily see them just watching the race. You see a bunch of riders, but there's probably somebody in there who's suddenly being asked to put in some extra effort, and they are absolutely killing themselves just to stay in there. And the thing is, you keep doing too many of those, you do get very, very tired, because they take a phenomenal effort, and that's why people get dropped off the back. Alex Plazier just giving up front position, giving a nice little wave from Germany. Nice to see you, Alex. Kevin Bouchard-Howell, of course, enjoying time on the front again, along with Alex there. They overtake some back markers, and look at the speed difference. I think it tells you a lot about how strong these riders are. And these are regular riders, these guys, so we know that this is fairly legit stuff. So Alex Pleasure, I should make a nice little English pun there. Alex Pleasure, I had the pleasure of knowing for a while through RGT Racing. And Abbott is the next one to come up as the peloton swamps them all up, and we get back in a pack. So who will be next to push off the front? 20 kilometres to go. Still plenty of racing left. Tony Gumbel is the rider that we're looking at the moment, who is in 5th place and pushing out 216 watts. And like I said to you, you know, you can ride at 40 kph, 216 watts. Right, the gradient's -1, I suppose you might argue. And you look at Saneki here, you can quite clearly see he's got a very different cadence there, having been dropped and probably taking it a little bit easy. My tactic is usually, if I get dropped, to sit there and wait for the next group of riders, because it's a lot easier to ride in a group. And as we saw in the ladies race, Angela Pizza stuck there in the middle of no man's land for a long time, eventually got caught by the group behind her just near the end as we go down that little bump. Mike Schwartz, RGT man, Techie, and Racer, a man who definitely knows what he's talking about without a shadow of a doubt, is the man going off the front now at 19.7 kilometres to go to the finish. He's being chased down a little bit by Liam Baird, who's dragging the peloton along. Somebody's off the back of the peloton there. It might be a back marker that we've just overtaken, of course. To me, I think that peloton might be about to thin again. It's Mark Bruce and Mike Swart taking in turns on the front here in this course in St. Louis. As you see there, 33, Olivia just getting back on for OTR. James Ogilvy's team. OTR putting on lots of events on RGT, look out for those. And one of the premier promoters on the channel at the moment, that's for sure, on the platform I should probably say. This broadcast brought to you by ZMS, and very much respect to Damon Bates for putting all this on and getting all the technology and whatever together. I don't understand any of it, I just do as I'm told and talk about the racing. And the racing is great on this. The Echelon Community Series. Don't forget, in the other weekends there are the professional Echelon races to watch, and these are the community ones. What I would probably describe as the amateur races, but make no mistake, these are fast, furious and exciting races, absolutely, from the RGT community. I'm very much a pro RGT person, and Olivo's off the back, so we're under 33 riders in the peloton now. It's whittling down. My guess is, with another 18 kilometres to go, the final peloton will probably be in the 20s numerically. Which side of 25 it'll be, I'm going to go for about 20. I think we won't have more than 25 in the peloton at the end. So Kevin Bouchard-Howell is determined to tire himself out. He's off the front again. What a star. Unfortunately, there isn't a prize for the most aggressive rider of the race, at least not as far as I'm aware. Kevin now just under 500 watts effort, heart rate 160 there, riding at 43 kph. And to be honest, my experience of racing on these sorts of races is that I do shorter races than this. And I've certainly seen in the shorter races people ride faster than this, but I think to ride much faster than this sort of level of racing is a little bit much to expect. So this probably looks about right for the length of the distance. In a shorter race you can certainly put more effort and go faster, because obviously you don't have to do it for quite as long. And Zach Harner is in second place, pushing out a mere 400 watts. Oh, if only I could do that sort of thing. Zach's suddenly down to 2 and 3 as soon as I said it, probably out of deference to my lack of ability to push out numbers like 600 watts. These are good riders, make no mistake, and that's why they're in a World Championship qualifier. Remember, the winner of this race will go through to the UCI Union Cycliste Internationale, the governing body of cycling globally. Their final free racing is on February the 26th, 2022. Look out for that. Not sure what the course is, distance, or any other details, but what I do know, as we look at Aaron Beakley from New Zealand, is that the winner of this race will be in that World Championship. So these guys are not going to give up the opportunity to win lightly, which is why I think it suits a lot of these guys to have these, like Zach Harner here. In fact, they've eked out 40 metres here. Now, this is a bit different to everything we've seen so far, because it looks like these two are beginning to work together, doesn't it? And if they are, that makes it slightly more difficult for the peloton. Having said that, the peloton are now reeling them in, with back down to under 20 metres, and that little spurt is over. I suspect that Kevin Bouchard-Howell might just be going off the front again before this race is over. I'm not sure what you think. They're just going up the steepest bit now. This is near the beginning, just after the start. The gradient does hit around 4.9%. It is an opportunity, if you like those sorts of climbs, to split the peloton a little bit and see if you can drop somebody off the front. But that uphill isn't very long, so it's more like a ramp than a hill. How much damage you can do, I don't know. Mike Lister sitting there in 6th, charging up on the front a little bit. Mike pushing out 267. So as I say, you can sit in these pelotons. You don't have to do phenomenal watts to get really good speed. Still hitting 42. They're on a minus 1.7, 1.6% gradient. You see, it's quite normal that people will come through the peloton, spin off the front, do a few seconds on the front, and somebody else will shoot through. So I think when you see somebody go off the front and stay there, they are deliberately putting in a lot of effort. Sophocles there is not, to my mind, a man going off the front, but you just see on the left there, David Blodgett clearly was. Now that was an attack. Quite often you see people going on the front and they've just basically over pedalled and gone off the front for a few seconds, and they'll sit there for a little while. David Blodgett has done a lot more than that. He's eked out 20 metres. My view, still 15 kilometres to go. I don't think that's going anywhere other than causing some pain and damage off the back of the peloton if the peloton chase him down. As I say, that's not a bad investment of time. And here we go. We've got Bowen, that's E. Bowen, by the way, and not Ned Bowen. I think Ned Bowen's in this race, I believe. So 30 seconds has just gone, and 31 Duval is just keeping on there. He keeps dragging himself back in, doesn't he? It's so we're down at 31, so I'm pretty sure it'll be under 30 when we get to the end. I'm hinting that I think this might be a 25-man peloton. William Harden, it's the same one that's going off the front all the time. These guys like to light up races. We love having them on board. They make it more exciting, don't they? We love these bits. And to have a look at the pain caves around the world, certainly in the USA. Mark Schwartz there, the RGT man, who has an array of jerseys, and I'm not sure if he changes mid-race or whether that just happens to be the jersey closet that he's doing his cycling in. William Zuheb, again, camera poking up from the floor. I'm not sure why. Scott Gleeson looking calm, cool and collected in a vest there. Mike Sanecki wiping himself down for the cameras, obviously wants a good look. Brian Hodges doing the same. I don't suppose any of the cameramen or the makeup crew come around and give you any makeup for these sorts of events, because it would just all sweat off, wouldn't it? David Blodgett looking like a man possessed. Oliver Dow just out of his saddle there, giving it a little bit of a push. I'm not sure why, but it's probably because the rider in front of him has just pulled away a bit and he needs to make up that gap to keep the benefit of the draft, which is so good. Brian Hodges out of the saddle, probably the same reason. Patrick Wale there, and Yaden Jaeger all out of the saddle. Mike Sanecki, everybody's out of the saddle at the moment. I think they're probably on the gradient going up, but yes, they are. Looking at the yes, there's a whole bunch of riders just in the bottom left hand of the profile. of the rider screen with the avatars just going over that hill. So everybody getting out the saddle for the hill. Most of them back in the saddle now. It wasn't very long. So that's an interesting insight into what it looks like. We can all watch, we can all look at the gradient information on the top right hand corner of the screen, but of course, you know, what we have is real riders there, and you can see the pain and the effort as they get out of the saddle to do that extra push to get themselves over that little ramp. It's not very long. Alex Plaisir there dropping back to 17th. Lee Bowen is now back at 32 and is off the peloton, which is still 31 riders, but still people scrapping to stay on the back as Mike Schwartz gives it another dig out of the front. As I say, my prediction is a 25-man peloton at the end. We're down to 31, and maybe we should have gambling on this, couldn't we? How many people will be in the peloton? What will be the winning time gap? There's loads you could do on this, isn't there? Absolutely fantastic. RGT bet is the next I suppose commercial outing. So Beatley, the New Zealander, is up there in the all black outfit riding Canyon Pike alongside Mike Schwartz, Aaron Bleakley. Oh, and somebody else has gone off the front. Oh, it's Jaden Jaeger. He's being chased down by Alex Plaisir, the German. Aaron Bleakley and Jay Cooper, Mike Schwartz, the next in line. Jaden Jaeger. Again, you can see the wattage when they go off the front. It's suddenly 500, but then as soon as Alex Plaisir goes by him, it drops to 200. That is the difference. 300 watts difference. Don't forget as well with RGT that you can over pedal. So if you keep pedaling when you don't need to, for example on a downhill, or maybe because you're sitting in somebody's slipstream, you're just wasting energy. It does tell you on screen the watts information on the top left goes red, so you know if you're over pedaling. But people do it. People do it. They've eked out a bit of a gap, those two, haven't they, Alex? And they have indeed. Yeah, Jaden and Alex, USA and Germany. Pretty much like the last race, isn't it? This is dominated by Germans and Americans. Quite a lot of Brits in this one too, although how many we've got left in the peloton I'm not so sure. Certainly a few. Mark Bruce, I think, and I think Mike Lister was still in there, wasn't he? I don't know about Mark Roadbottom. Yeah, Mark Roadbottom's still in there. A lot less Brits than they used to be at the beginning of the race. So they've got 100 meters. That is a lot. I'm a little bit astounded by that. No question marks over the two riders involved. They are seasoned RGT riders, respected on the scene. So I don't think there's anything untoward about that. But that's a big gap. That is a big gap, and they're going up the climb now. If they actually sustain it, 37 kph as they go over the climb. All right, they're over the worst bit of it now. But the peloton is on the harder bit now. The drops down a little bit, but that's interesting. What's the gap? What is the gap? So the peloton now getting over the top of the hill, but the gap is come down a little bit. I mean, Mark Bruce is 95 meters behind. That's a lot. Jared Jaeger leaving Alex Plaisir behind, and I think with only solo riders, I think that's not going to work. 10 kilometers to go. Alex Plaisir's probably going to get caught by the peloton. Certainly he's only about 30 meters in front of them, so he'll get swept up. That's a big ask for Jared too. Oh, see, Naven's gone off the back, so we're down to 30 riders in the peloton. This is attritional, isn't it? And look, people struggling off the back, and this is damage being caused by chasing down Jared and to a lesser extent Alex. McDowd there from Canada, struggling to get back on, but he might just get towed nicely back by Hodges. So that's I mean, that's sometimes a bit of a treat, actually, if you're struggling to get back on and somebody just comes along by the side of you and latch onto their wheel and find yourself back on. Jared Jaeger now 140 metres. This is big. This is big. Don't underestimate just how hard that would have been to pull out 140 metres on a peloton. Even though the peloton's smaller, I mean, it's still decent size. There's 30 riders in there. This is a big gap. This is a huge gap. 9 kilometres to go. Probably the best part of 15 minutes from the end. And see, Abbott is the next one down. Abbott is looking like he's going to get back on, but he's fighting to do so. He's back on. That's all right. Once you get up to that position, you start getting the draft again, and it eases up. You just hope that nobody attacks at the moment you tack on the back. 200 metres. Yared has pulled out a rather... Sorry, Yared, it's Yaden, sorry. I do beg your pardon, I keep saying Yared. It's Yaden Jaeger. Yaden Jaeger. That is 220 and growing. That is quite impressive. I don't know if it's significant that the attack has taken place now. I don't know whether it's putting out 5 watts per kilo. He's being chased down though, isn't he? Patrick Wale is the man doing the chase, but I don't think Patrick's been away from the peloton, so he'd probably be better off if he was in it. Mike Sanaki having another wipe down there for the camera, and I was going to say he's putting on a helmet, but he's just putting on a hat, so obviously a bit more aerodynamic in the hat for some reason. Scott Gleason out of the saddle, presumably going up one of the bumps, as was Brian Hodges. David Blodgett looking as focused as ever. Brian Hodges out the saddle again in that hoop shirt. Patrick Wale on the bottom right hand corner, the man who was doing the chase after Yaden Jaeger, sorry. One day I'll get your name right. Sorry, it's shocking, isn't it? I would add that if you ever watch sport on TV, the commentators are very well aware of who the entrants are before the race. I don't actually know who is going to be racing until we start, because people can enter right up to the start, and people who have entered don't necessarily turn up. So there's no very little point going away and trying to memorise everybody's names, because the actual participants wouldn't necessarily match what I was commentating on. 58 riders left in the race, and you still have this 200 odd metre gap between Yaden Jaeger and the Alex Plagier's been swallowed up, sitting comfortably in 26th in the peloton. Mike Short 30th is the last man in the peloton. Mike clawing his way up the peloton a little bit at the moment as we follow him. So, is the peloton going to chase down Yaden Jaeger, or is he going to phenomenally win this from a distance? He's got Mike Saiki just behind him, but I don't think Mike's in the... I think he's lapped Mike, which is, I should say. So Yaden still putting out 5 watts per kilogram. I mean, this is quite steady. All right, he's on minus... he's on a minus gradient right now, which makes me wonder why you need to push out the full 5, but you can do. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. Alex Plagier, who was up with him for a little while earlier on, now sitting more comfortably back in the swing of things inside the peloton. A couple of... and I think the peloton is working, because you can tell by how strung out it is there. So if the peloton's working, is the gap coming down, and are we going to lose people off the back? Remember the little game we're playing, how many people will be left in the final peloton. 5 kilometers to go and we're down to about 30. My prediction was 25. Yaden Jaeger is still pushing out, heading towards 5. I mean, this is 500 watts. That is quite phenomenal. It's a lot. Oh, we've got 30 in the peloton. That is strong though. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose a couple in this effort. It suggests to me that the peloton is chasing down, and we are looking at Gavash doing well. It's down to 42 now, but it was momentarily there. It was 48 kilometers per hour. They are just going up the little ramp just after the start, so that will slow them down. Still 42. Yaden Jaeger's down to 180. And as I said, I had a feeling that the peloton was putting a bit of effort in, because it was getting thinned out and strung out, and it still is to a degree. That's not a flat peloton. I don't think anybody currently in it is particular. Oh, I say that somebody was just going off the back as we went back into the Zoom room. And so let's have a look at everybody's smiling faces. Okay, we'll settle for concentrating faces. How's that? And Williams, who gave armpit, because the camera's on the floor. I suspect it's dropped. So we see Patrick Wallay and Yaden Jaeger is out the saddle there a little bit. He's looking sort of quite purposeful, isn't he, Yaden? He's pedalling quite smoothly and routinely. There's no real sort of obvious external effort going in. If you look at Mike Sarnecki there, out the saddle for the moment, I suspect he's just going up one of those little ramps, or just trying to catch up the rider in front. So 180. I mean, the peloton's clawed a little bit back. Remember, it was out at 220 meters. It's Patrick Wallay who's leading the charge from Aaron Bleakley, the New Zealander, behind. And I think the peloton's pretty much all together by the looks of those gaps. Yaden just pulling it out a little bit more. It's back up to 190. With 3.8 kilometres to go. I felt he'd gone early when he first went, but I think he might just do this, because the peloton's put some effort in. Mike Rowbottom in 29th off the back, and that's a bit of a shock. He's a top rider, Mark. That's, I think, testimony to how hard that peloton was working, and that just tells you that peloton is working to catch Yaden up. So that's quite telling. So we're down to 28 in the peloton. My prediction was 25 at the end. Perilously close. Perilously close. 3 kilometres to go. Yaden's got 200 metres. The way he's riding, I think this is possible. Instinct tells me that the size of the peloton means that if they all decide to ramp it up with 2 kilometres to go, I think he will get caught. I wonder if they can ramp it up though, because I think they just did, and it didn't really make a big difference, and therefore I don't think that peloton will have enough to win back. Now he's just hit the 4.9% ramp just after the start line as he enters the last but one lap. Sorry, it's the last lap, isn't it? The peloton just going over that ramp now. What's the difference? Oh, mind you, somebody's working, because that's come down to 178. Peloton not quite over the hill yet. They pulled it down 20 meters. The thing is, if they only pull it down 20 meters a lap, they're not going to catch him by the end. 2.4 kilometers to go, gap of 190. I think Yaden Jaeger is today's winner. I'm going to stick my neck out and say that I think he will hold that, mainly because every effort that the peloton have made to chase him down has not come to fruition. Yaden just overtaking some back markers at 46. This is a strong field, and as I say, if they're only overtaking the back markers, it's the Daniel Mark Ellis from. He's got the Brazilian flag. He's Portuguese. Well, he's Brazilian, but he lives in Portugal. Lucky they speak the same language. So Yaden now at 1.7 kilometres to go and 200 metres. I don't think he's going to lose this one. So if all the boxes get ticked and he goes through all the checks, he will be riding in the UCI World Championships on February the 26th, 2022. This is the obviously the e-racing championships. No idea what the course is or anything like that. Still 200 metres to go with 200 metres gap with 1.6 kilometres to go. So I suppose the next question is, and we're assuming that Yaden's going to win this one now, how does this affect the team competition, the ongoing series competition? Now remember that the way the races are, you don't have to enter every race, but what you do have to do is score as many points as you possibly can. So in other words, if you ride all the races and continually clock up points, you can actually beat stronger riders who don't enter every race. So as I say, the key is, do you want to win the series, or are you just going into individual races? Now this one I think has attracted a lot of riders just going for the World Cup, the World Championship qualification, but there will be other riders in here who will be quite happy with quite high positions. 500 metres to go. Yaden is now 270 metres ahead. Quite an emphatic and phenomenal finish, and Yaden is quite clearly going to win this, because now we are approaching the point where the distance to the finish is going to be shorter than the distance to the rider behind, which is Aaron Bleakley at the moment. Yaden now 200 metres to go, nobody within 250 metres of him, and the race is his. As you can see, the finishing line coming up. He could even sit up and wave and point at his sponsor's name on his jersey if he wanted to. He's not going to. He crosses the line to a round of applause from some avatars. We look at Aaron Bleakley. He's just been taken by Hodges, and who's going to win this one? There's a sprint. I didn't quite get it, but it was Wale. It was Patrick Wale who got it in the end. Well done, Patrick. Absolutely phenomenal 5-man sprint there. The results will come up on the right of your screen any minute now. We'll be able to analyse who did what. Mike Lister in 8th there, I see. Zach Harner in 9th. Carr Duval getting 11th. Well done. So here we are. Let's have a look at who did what. And we've got Greece, I assume is German, in 13th. Sorry, this is women's, isn't it? We've got the women's results on the left from earlier. When we left the women's race, of course, Greece and Carrera were still on the track, but the distances suggested that they would stay in those two positions. And you see the Greece finished 16 minutes after the winner, and Vanessa Carrera 19 minutes after the winner. So as predicted, the women's race pans out like that. There is some doubt about 8th position. Julien Michon, we think, might be a man in the ladies race and might be withdrawn, so everybody will shunt up the rankings. Now then, over to the men's A race. There's the men's B race too, of course. Yaden Jaeger, as we saw, winning that by a clear 13 seconds. That's quite emphatic. Then we had we had another 12 riders, all on just about 13 seconds, but it was the main 5 just afterwards that duked out that finish. Scott Gleeson taking second. I thought it was Patrick Wale, so I certainly missed that one. Well done, Scott, from the USA. Patrick Wale, William Zugabe, who we saw on the Zoom room. Jean Henlein III, who I don't think I've even mentioned in the whole of the commentary, comes in at 5th, so he saved his best till last, quite clearly. Jesse Seaman, Brian Hodges, Mike Lister, Zach Harner, Adam Carr, Marcus Duval, Kevin Bouchard-Howell, has to settle for 12th despite really illuminating and lighting up the race time after time. Charlie Revell did a bit of that too. Aris Sophocles, Tony Gumbel, I don't think I mentioned Tony once during the commentary, I don't remember. William Harden, who put in some interesting breaks. Mark Bruce at 20th. John Cooper at 19th. Ryan Larson at 18th. I don't think we mentioned. Daniel Janrosic in 16th, just behind Tony Gumbel. And the distance, so the gap, I mean, virtually everybody there was in the peloton, of course. So the time gap is in seconds rather than anything else. About 14, let's have a look, 14 seconds difference between first place and 20th. And I suspect there's probably about another 6 or 7 riders on about the same time, because despite my prediction of peloton of 25, my guess is that it was probably around 27 or 28. We shall see shortly, I think. So what else have we got coming up? We've got, of course, the men. What we've got, I think, is their open races actually. The other races are at 6:30, and they are about to start, I believe. So that includes, I think, the men's B, the hand cycles, and the other sort of novelty bikes, trikes, recumbents, things like that. So I'm happy to switch over to the other races if they have started, at the hands of the producer, who will take us over. There might be some adverts in between, but ready to go with the other races whenever everybody's ready. And they started, so they've all started on time. They haven't got very far, less than a kilometre from the start on the hand cycling. Just coming up to the 2nd kilometre for the men's B race, and the paracyclists 1.5 kilometres. Now then, the hand cycling in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you will see that the avatars are, of course, upright cyclists. This is being worked on. I did see some interesting test drawings of the avatars for the hand cycling races going forward. So at some point during this series, it is anticipated that the avatars will actually be hand cyclists in the bottom right hand corner for the hand cycling. So paracycling is above, and that's how many riders we got in there? 4 riders in that one. The hand cycling has got 7 riders, and let's have a look at the men's B. I wouldn't mind seeing who's in the men's B and getting a feel for that and the size of the field. 27 riders on the course at the moment. We see a lot of US flags all riding on home territory here in St. Louis, Missouri, and on the banks of the River Mississippi. Boguslavski is off the front, 39 meters, and we have 41 kilometers to go. I'm anticipating this race will be something like an hour, because we're doing 16 laps. I think we're doing less laps for the other 2 races. So the other 2 races will finish during the course of this one. So Boguslavski is still maintaining that gap. It's about 30 meters now, and just having a look at the 7th place. We have D. Fred, who is from France, and mostly there's a lot of US flags in there, Canada and the Netherlands, Deutschland, so a fairly international field we've got for this one. And Phil Bottigliero is coming up for the USA, taking over on the front as the peloton sweep up our man on the front. Phil pumping out 270 watts. This is quite high, and you'll recall that we were just looking at what they were putting out in the men's A race. So if you wonder what the difference between an A racer and a B racer is, essentially, if you want to do a comparison with Zwift, you'd be in the A race if you're a sort of category A, category B rider with Zwift. You'd be in this race if you're category C or D, like me. If you, or another comparison, in terms of outdoor racing, basically an A racer would be category 1, 2 or 3 racer out there on outdoor racing, and in this race maybe 3, 4, 5 category racer. So that gives you a benchmark. I mean, I would certainly be in this race and not the front one, that's for sure. I'm not sure I would actually, because I think this would probably be a bit tough for me. Although, if you look forward to tomorrow's race, here we are with sort of 44 kilometre race. We've still got just under 40k to go here, but the race tomorrow is over 80k and has some nasty climbs in it, and it looks absolutely, depending on your view on these sorts of things, challenging, gruesome, or awesome. Take your pick. You can have you can see it whichever way you want to. I'm not going to argue with you, but it certainly looks difficult, and I think what I suspect might happen tomorrow, unlike today, is that you will get a very spread out finish, because I think the hills, coupled with the distance, are going to attritionally wear everything down. Here, of course, this is a very flat course, not quite a figure of 8, but it almost looks like an 8. You can see on the right hand side of your screen, you can see with the blue blob where everybody is on the course. It's in St. Louis. It's an inner city crit course. It's urban, obviously. This is made up of magic roads, so you get stock countryside scenery, and it's not necessarily the same thing, but nevertheless you do get a choice of sceneries on RGT. Of course, this is the sunny one. I always choose the grim one for my races, which I run on alternate Wednesdays. West London VR they're called, and a lot of these riders that you see in the race today take part in my races, say every other Wednesday, 7:30 UK time on RGT. Then you get other people like the OTR guys putting on lots and lots of races, Lou Ricks putting on group rides. There's plenty going on RGT, and there are a clutch of people who put on races. Southborough putting on their Friday Frenzy, and I notice that people like the Danish and the Belgians and the French put on races that get very well subscribed from people from their home countries as well. But certainly on the international front, a lot of those races coming out of UK promoters like OTR and myself. So it's absolutely fantastic that Echelon have put this series together alongside their phenomenal main race. Having a look there at some of the recumbents and one hand cycle, Jackie Jones in the hand cycle, Michael Brooks and Paul Gibor in the recumbents, Tony Youngblood also on the hand cycle, pausing for a moment. Is that because he's going downhill? I don't know. Marion Hambrick, who I assume is in the main race, alongside Deris Pango. Or maybe not, actually. Need to check which races they're actually in. Anyway, let's have a look at the hand cycling, shall we? And that's down at the bottom left hand corner of your screen at the moment. So, 6 riders. The other 2 at the bottom are cameras. So that's a decent turnout in my view. So what have we got? 5 from the USA, and currently Koen off the front for the Netherlands with 45 kilometres over his next contestant, Jones, and a comfortable 316 going backwards. These races do quite often get strung out like this, so they, I say that if you've got a small field, you're less likely to get a huge peloton congregating. But what is important, and I think that everybody watching this needs to go away and tell their friends, is that the more we get it out there that these races are taking place, the bigger the fields will get, the more competitive the racing, the better the pelotons. everything starts gelling when you get a critical mass of people. Now, it needs everybody to make everybody else aware that you can come along and do these races. Now, you might not be a hand cyclist yourself, but you might know one. And as an organiser of races, I have organised a real life hand cycle race before, and one of the problems was I have a small field. These guys have to it's a whole load of effort to get there. There's less of them, so they probably have to travel further for races because there's less races to choose from. Quite often they're not near where they are, they're not convenient, and all the rest of it. And the guys, on the one hand, you need these guys to come along, otherwise it doesn't work. On the other hand, you do want quite a few of them, but that's not always logistically possible. And here lies the difference, because we're sitting here with races like this, and I have to say, top marks to Echelon for putting this on for hand cyclists. Absolutely brilliant. Well done, Echelon, and whichever people inside Echelon initiated this. It looks like Youngbert's got a bit of a problem. He's on the climby bit. I don't remember this going up 6. He's zigzagging a bit. That was a steep gradient. But going back to this, the one thing that Echelon are doing here is they're giving you hand cycling races where you don't need to travel halfway across the country you live in to find a race, because you just do it from home. And I think this is, for hand cyclists, this could be a very, very big thing. But somebody has to start it to get it off the ground. Echelon have made that first move. It's up to the rest of us to go and tell people about it and get more of these hand cyclists here. But we have to take our hat off to the 6 riders that have participated in this and are making it what it is. Kuhn now, he's not having it all his own way. He can't get rid of Jones there. So we might yet have a bit of a battle at the end between these two. Jones there in 2nd place, just overtaking somebody at the back. That might actually be a camera, but I don't know, 60 metres now. Although again, Kuhn's just gone over the. No, he hasn't. So yeah, maybe that gap is going to eke out a little bit. Anyway, that's the hand cycling. Let's have a look at the paracycling and see what else we've got. So here we are, Parangao. I did question it when I thought that he was in the main race, because I seem to remember him from the paracycling last week. So Parangao obviously back for more, and I think Brooks as well probably raced last week. So these guys collecting points in the series, and more power to you for doing so. Neither of them winning. It's Jay Beramy who's out front at the moment. All 4 from the USA, and again, this is one of those things where I think, depending on what basis you're racing, Paringo, say he raced last week, did quite well as I recall, and I think again it's another one of those things where we need to get the word out as to what is going on, and making sure that we get lots and lots more guys and girls turning up in these races in the future. The more, as I say, the more people turn up, the more competitive they get, the more exciting they get. The whole thing, they get to a critical mass, and the whole thing snowballs into something fantastic. And so, Echelon, take a bow, please, for taking the first step to get us off the ground. So, looking at this, what we do have is an interesting tussle between Kilgore and Parangao, and they're not far behind Beramy. So, this race may yet turn out to be a tussle. Here we are, it's Paraguno and Kilgore. Maybe Kilgore, as we've just seen in the ladies' race, doing all the work at the front, and doesn't really want to be pipped at the end. Now remember, the paracycling and the hand cycling races are half the distance, so that's why we've only got 13.7 kilometres to go on there. Let's go back to the men's B race and see what's happening there. We've still got 33 kilometres to go in that one, so a lot of racing still to happen. We've got Smitheroo off the front though, 120 metres, that's a lot. I don't think that's a distance that anybody can sustain for 33 kilometres. so I don't think we're going to see Smitheroo off the front for the next 40 minutes or so. If he does, we'll all be sort of raising our eyebrows, won't we? He's coming up to finish another lap by the looks of it, so he's just about to go up that little steep bit. We just saw somebody in one of the other races flashed up 6% on the on the gradient, but I don't remember it going above 4.9. So let's see what happens here. 4.7, 4.9, then it eases. I'm not quite sure how in the other instance it flashed up to 6%. I just wonder if it's because the rider's going slower. Oh no, there we are. It just went to 6, didn't it? I'll take that all back. That's after the 4.9. That's probably why I missed it in the previous racing. So looking back here, Brad Borders is in 3rd place. Sit on the wheel of Popovic. A lot of US flags in that bunch. I'm not quite sure how many are in the peloton. There are 26 riders online, and certainly I think we're getting a gap of about, I think it's probably about maybe 15 or 16 in the first bunch, and that includes the guy off the front. So there's probably 10 straggling back, and if you look along the bottom, you can see the white dots show that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's at least 9 riders in those dots that are. The 16th is Billing and 400 metres back. So there's a top 16. Then there's Okis Blue on 17th. Smith is adrift in 18th. Big gaps, a lot of solo riders is the message we're getting there. As we see 17th here. Okis Blue is, let's say, Turkish and riding solo. Smith, same thing. Although we can see it's only it's 300 metres ahead, so he's within sight. Going back to 19th, Costa from Portugal, getting solo, 500 metres behind Smith, 300 metres in front of Mutis from, I think that's Colombia, isn't it? So we can assume Mutis is the Colombian flag, I think. I know there's more than one country with those 3 stripes. In which order you put them in decides which country it is, but I'm guessing Colombia. Apologies if I got that one wrong. I know there's at least one Eastern European country uses a similar flag. Looking back at 21st, we've got a nice little group here of 4 riders, Pereira and Tyler from the USA, Barriere from Canada, I'm assuming Quebec with a name like that, and Nuri from France. So 1 Portuguese speaker, 1 English speaker, and presumably a couple of French speakers in there. So I have a bet that the 3 non-English speakers can actually all speak English and can probably send out false messages to poor old American in there, and then at times just speaking, certainly through French rider or Canadian and French rider can probably converse in French and hatch up little plots without the others realising. P. Gibbons, UK, is well adrift at he's in last place, and he's a long way behind, so it's probably one of his first rides on RGT perhaps. I certainly I find it quite interesting when I get new riders into the events I run. It's that they quite often don't have a great first race, and you get an email from them saying, "Oh, you know, didn't realise it'd be so fast at the front," or "Oh, if only I'd kind of realised this," or I wasn't expecting that." And you look about 2 or 3 races later, and they're sort of halfway up the pack, and you know, a couple of months after that, they're kind of nearer the pointy end. Because there is a lot of technique to this, and if you do find yourself adrift and things like that, it's knowing how to deal with that. And this is not a short race. I mean, we've still got in the men's B's race 30 kilometres to go, 10 in the paracycling and 12 in the hand cycling. This is It's not a case of, well, I got dropped off the front, so I just sort of rode in. You've actually got to keep going for 30 kilometres. That's thick end of 20 miles, and it's not easy. You're not getting the benefit. There's guys up ahead who are in groups having an easier ride than you are, and they're going faster because they're in a group. So it can be soul destroying, but if you are sensible about it and just pick up the lessons learned from doing these sorts of things, then you can get better and better at it. And the converse to this is that I also get lots and lots of people who race in my races and perennially come near the back, and they absolutely love it. They don't care that they come near the back. They kind of enjoy the thrill of it all, see how fast they can do, challenge themselves to see what relative time they can do, and get a workout. And so I think it's one of the joys of RGT, and I also think one of the joys of not having too much grading in it. We've got a men's A and a men's B here, just to make it competitive. I think it's probably about as far as I would go, because I quite like the idea of the bad riders, the poor riders, the less talented, whatever you want to call them, being in the race. And if they fall off the back, they fall off the back. So what? If they enjoy themselves, that's great. So as I say, I think what we've got here in this men's B race, you're bound to get a bigger stretch of ability than you would in the A race. And even in the A race, it was fairly spread out at the end, as you've seen. Looking at the Zoom room, the pain caves, and we look at certainly three-hand cyclists and Peringo paracyclist, Kilgore on a recumbent, and Hambrick, who I think is in the men's B race. I have no idea what it must feel like to do one of those hand cycles, but looking at the size of the muscles you need to do it, I don't think I'd be very good at that one. So Dennis Peringo firing away still. Quite interesting again that people do seem to do this inside their houses, don't they? I'm obviously out of touch with the world here, because most people I know do it in their garden shed or their garage, but there we are. We've had an insight into people's homes. It could be a whole one of these TV series, isn't it? Get your pain cave makeover. A couple of guys come round and see if they can sort of turn your bike pain cave into something that makes you go a little bit faster, and the neighbours are impressed with the decor. Yeah, makeover programs. There's no end to these things, is there? So let's go back to the men's B race and see if anything's split up. Well, we've still got a sizable peloton there, and nobody's off the front, so that's holding together. That is, despite me saying that's a sizable peloton, that is probably down a couple, I would estimate, on where we were at last time. As I say, in most of the races, so this is the third race I've commentated on this afternoon. It is one of these things where I think it's attritional, particularly over the distance we're doing here. Still with 27 kilometres to go, so I still think we're on the thick end of 40 minutes of racing in this, the men's B race. I'd say the other two races will finish earlier, so we will be going back to those as they get nearer the finish. But this is attritional, as we see Brian Borders going off the front, and I can't say Borders now without I'm sorry for this this is an unashamed little plug. My daughter has made a film called Borders, which is currently on release. It's actually about skateboarding, so I can't say the word Borders now without thinking about her film. So if you do have access to that, I'm sure you can watch it online. It's all about British skateboarding, but my daughter's film. So Borders, I hope that Mr. Borders is successful as well as my daughter's film is. But we're not doing skateboarding here, are we? We're doing Echelon racing, and we love Echelon racing. Don't forget, it's pros some weekends and community races for us mere mortals and the others, as R. Nelson goes off the front. No advertising going with his name. I don't think there's anybody else in there with a name that would sort of send my mind elsewhere. I was reminded that there was a comedian in the UK some years ago who was always sort of told that he had these sort of good memory, and he always said that it was always references. He used references to remind himself of things, and that this is I think something that the human brain does, isn't it? That you certain words trigger certain thoughts, and unfortunately Borders is going to you better stay off the front, otherwise I'm going to keep talking about my daughter's film. So anyway, we digress, and let's get back to the racing. There's quite an international field there on the men's field. I see Slovenia, Canada, USA, and whatnot in there. We just lost the men's lead as we go back into the pain caves. Paul Gilwell with his hands behind his head, looking like he's relaxing on the beach. I'm sure he's not. That looks like a proper pain cave, doesn't it? It's bike wheels and things like that all on the side. I suppose actually might have just. We'll go back to the men's. Let's have a look. D. Fred. That was. I was saying that names don't remind you of things. I was one of the first football matches I ever went to. And this is soccer in the USA. One of the I can't remember. I think Bordeaux had a player called Fred, which I thought was a very unusual name for a Frenchman. But we see it crop up again here. D. Fred. So maybe Fred is as Francais as that. Certainly, there were certainly Austrian kings called Frederick and things like that. So it's certainly a European-based name. Somebody's off the back of that peloton, but they've got themselves back on again. It's not quite sure who. Yeah, and they're firmly back in now. The guy in the orange helmet and the white and black shirt. Probably M. Christian is off the front, small amount of meters, and it's not going to stick. I think the pace, look at the pace here, 48 kilometres, 49 kilometres an hour. Right, it's -2. Descents do seem to disrupt the pack. I'm never quite sure why, because I always think that you ought to be able to hang on. There's obviously some people who superpower off the front, and they cause a bit of stress at the back, as you can see there. The only thing is, I'm going to say two contradictory things. I've been in a lot of races where people have done damage on descents and they drop people off the back. However, I've been probably more races where somebody's trying to do that, and as soon as it gets flat again, the whole thing sort of pulls back together. So I would say that at best it may work 30-35% of the time, as a very crude guess. And you can see this has all come back together again. And particularly now they're coming through the start finishing line. Now this is where I think it can split up. You can see somebody's gone off the front there on the left in the blue jersey, really attacking as the gradient goes up to 3.1. Don't forget 4.9 is the CB split this. It's Boguslavski, and he's eked out 40 metres. Still with 24 kilometres to go. That's a big ask to see that all the way to the finish. But you can do damage. I think you can do permanent damage on climbs, that's for sure. Don't forget that hits about 4.9% momentarily, eases off, and then there's a very split second 6%. But I don't think the 6% is long enough to cause any damage. But like I was explaining with the descent, they seem to come together afterwards. It's one thing getting up the hill, but you need to accelerate off the top of it to sustain the damage. That hasn't happened for Boguslavski. He's now been taken over by Pavlich and Fred, the Frenchman. And Fred the Frenchman, that's got a ring to it, hasn't it? I like that, Fred the Frenchman. That's your new name. We've got Nelson, Christian. See, now we're into sort of famous sailors, isn't there? Because there's Horatio Nelson and Mr. Christian from the Mutiny of the Bounty. I should stop all this name connections. Rebec is a Slovenian. We're seeing more and more Slovenian riders in these races, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure they're inspired by the current wave of wonderful professional racers they've got coming out of that country. But you don't produce professional races unless you've got a groundswell of popularity for the sport anyway. Beautiful country. I have visited it, but I haven't seen much of it. I went across from the Italian border, but certainly from what I've seen of it in pictures, and when I did visit I was looking at going somewhere else and didn't. It looks absolutely beautiful. I will revisit that at some point. So Kevin Broadstreet is the rider we're looking at, 260 watts on a gradient of 0.3. He's got a heart rate of 173, cadence of 98, 36 kph. Not particularly fast, but as I was saying earlier, in the A race, speeds here might be a little bit slower than you'll see in shorter races because there just simply is more. The other thing is as well that a short race on a flat course like this will probably keep the peloton together better because there's less time to sort of split it up. So again, shorter races would go faster for that reason too. But I'm sure we'd all, a lot of us watching, will be delighted to be able to sustain something like 35 to 40 kph over this course. We look at Ben Nickerson riding at 42 and 200 and just edging up to not quite nudge 300 watts of output. This little group are working together. You can see these USA. It's rather fetching, that USA kit, isn't it, with that diagonal red and white stripe. I quite like that. It's quite eye-catching as well, isn't it? This series through Echelon is organised by USA Cycling, of course, and you can see the little crest on the side next to the Ben Nickerson data that we've got on screen. So thank you, USA Cycling. Hence why the men's A race was a UCI World Championship qualifier, and we wish the winners of the previous two races the best of luck. Shall we see how they're getting on in the hand cycling? So Kunin now, we might just see him crack the meter gap distance. He's 930 meters ahead of Jackie Jones. Jackie Jones rode last week as well. Jackie Jones, I think, is one of those who will be going for the championship over the series. Don't forget there's plenty more races to come. They run through January 2, so make sure you have a look at the Echelon Racing League, and you can see the website details just going across the bottom now here, www.echelonracingleague.com. It's got all the dates on there, both for the pro races and the community races as well. This is a community race. Loads on there, and as I was saying earlier, this is a 6% little section, as we see MH Madison, N4 Madison going over there. It's very, very momentary, isn't it, the 6%? So I don't think, I'm sure it doesn't help keep the pace going, but I'm sure it doesn't burn too much as you're over it so quickly. Nevertheless, there seems to be a problem, oh dear, for Bryant. Now, let's hope that's just a dropout, a technical that will involve some sort of connection that reboots itself. Koeman has cracked the 1 kilometre gap, so it looks like the Netherlands are going to be the beneficiaries of the points awarded for this race in the Echelon Racing Series. And with 5.9 kilometres to go, I don't think that gap is going to be made up. I'm not sure how Bryant's getting on, whether or not that's actually he's quit or not. I'm just looking at the gap. The gap seems to be it says riding again. That's good. That's good. That's brilliant. That's what we wanted to see. Just going up that. Maybe he's just having a break halfway up the climb. He's probably going to get away from Koeman as he goes past in a moment. Jeremy just going through the start finishing line and hitting that 4.9% bit, the 3% bit. This slows him down a little bit, but it's not massively long. I'm just intrigued to know what that 6% they suddenly get near the end feels like. It must be, here it is, but it's gone momentarily. So I just wonder, it looks to me like it's one of those little bumps that maybe hasn't been ironed out in the road. I might be wrong. When the Magic Road was made. If so, they're not. They affect your pace, but they don't hurt because they're not long enough. They just kind of slow you down, and you need to get going again. So that's the paracycling. I wonder how hand cycling's going. Probably been there. Should we go to the men's B race? Let's see how big our peloton is, shall we? So here we are, and Hovlich is 100 metres off the front. That is sort of 19. It's not a lot with 19 kilometres to go, I would venture to say. I don't think that's sustainable. But then again, I was a little bit surprised with the attack, albeit much later in the last race, and it stuck, didn't it? So Smitheroo in second place is leading the chase, I would guess. We've certainly got Begazlowski on his heels, and Christian and Nelson. Because it doesn't help with my name connections thing. It's the two with famous nautical historical figures right next to each other all the time, is it? And then guess what? Borders goes through. I need to stop this. I need to take my train of thought elsewhere. So we'll have a look at Hovlich at the front. He's been caught by Smitheroos, and the gap between Smitheroos is about 70 metres back to the next lot. So that, if you do the maths, Joshua Smith is Smitheroos. Joshua Smith is well, I do like these US strips. They look quite good on the screen, don't they? So we're looking at the thing is, though, I was about to say, if you do the maths, the gaps come down quite a lot between the front and the next group, but in actual fact it's now widening, and it may widen even more with the two of them together. Now, an interesting question that came up this week following my own race on Wednesday. We were just talking about the team competition I run there. There isn't a team competition in this Echelon thing, but I run races for individuals, but the teams can score points. And somebody made the point to me, but the teams don't ride as teams, and I was like, yeah, that's right. So the question that arises out of that, if I'm going to have a team competition, should it be a team competition where everybody rides for one rider, or do I ride an individual race and what are the points you score to go in? I don't know how you square that circle. Certainly I've seen team time trial races run on RGT where clearly you ride as a team, and certainly when I've ridden in those, there's no point racing off the front because it's, let's say, the third or fourth rider or whatever it is in that competition that counts. So you may as well actually just sit back and help people behind you go faster and ride as a team. But in one of these races, individual glory probably comes first, doesn't it? We're over to paracycling, and there's some individual glory going Bernie's way, because Bernie is now 1.5 kilometres in front of everybody else, and he's only got 300 metres to go to the finishing line. So Bernie is going to win. Parangao is probably the hot tip for second, because there's certainly a rather large gap back to Kilgore, and Kilgore and Brooks are probably going to have an exciting little race when they come home later. So well done, Bernie. That is a phenomenal ride. Well done in the paracycling to Bernie, who takes the win and the race winner. Fantastic stuff. The USA, all 4 riders. Parangao is going to get second and more points in that league, the Echelon Racing League Community Series. So well done, Daniel Parangao. We're back with the MB. 200 metres now back to Christian and Rebech, the Slovenian rider. Nelson, Hambrick, Begazlowski, Kopka from the USA. David, so we've got D-Fred and it keeps moving. It's quite the top 10, the top 11 riders are away from everybody else. We've only got 23 on the course, so it looks as if we've had something like 3 riders get to Canicals and drop out, or just decide enough is enough for whatever reason. So basically, we're going to have the race for first place between Pavlich and Smith, and I think then we're going to have an 8-man race for the next positions. This is going to... I'm a great fan of this. I was saying earlier in one of the other races, I'm a great fan of this, where it splits up and you just get mini races within the race, because I think, you know, there's a natural selection about it, isn't there? That you know, if you're not good enough to be in the first group, it doesn't matter. You can have your own little private race with people of your standard further back, but you find each other naturally because the natural selection finds you in the same groups. So Nuri is about to get lapped by our intrepid front men. Boguslavski now pushing out on the front, seeing what he can do. 16 kilometres to go. I think that's brave, and I think he's going to get reeled back. Fred the Frenchman. Fred the Frenchman, that was what I was going to call him, wasn't it? Fred the Frenchman. Fred le Français. And who we've got going off the front this time? It's Christian again. And so Kopka and there's a Kapka, Broad Street, and who else have we got up there? Rebec. I think they're going to get chased down, aren't they? I mean, I think we can assume that Christian is not going to be allowed to get away. Gibbons just getting lapped there, the Brit, and we look across at the paracycling. Let's have a look at the paracycling. We're going to see the second place goes to Parangao as predicted. 700 metres back, Kilgore is going to take... Oh, I don't know, actually. Kilgore and Brooks, that's going to be quite an interesting little race, isn't it? As they go down that little bump that I think is not going to be there. That's what I think that 6% thing probably looks like from the other direction that we were discussing earlier, just after the start. So Kilgore or Brooks? Kilgore's pulling away, isn't there? 500 metres to go. Kilgore's certainly going for it. They look like teammates. They've got the same RGT kit on, but Brooks is not giving up. He's pulling up. Brooks might be the stronger finisher. I think he's slowed up to sit on the wheel now. I think Brooks has got the sprint, and I think he's going to go for it. What's Kilgore got? Brooks is going early. That's 250 metres. I think he probably knows. No, Kilgore. So you're not doing that. And they're both out of sail. This is going to be neck and neck. It's Brooks at the moment. I think Brooks is just about going to do it, but Kilgore's flying back. He's not giving up. Brooks just does it. Well, that was cracking. Well done, guys. Brilliant stuff. Loved that. Absolutely hats off. That was good stuff. They duked it out right over the line, isn't it? What's happening in the hand cycling then? Those guys must be getting towards the end as well, mustn't they? Let's see how that one's panning out. So hand cycling, 1.2 kilometres. We're going to see Koeman win. I think we knew that was coming. Jackie Jones is going to take second, but he's a long way behind, 1.5 kilometres. So I think we can just probably wait for Koeman to come in and probably assume, looking at the gaps now, we've only got... Yeah, so I think Jackie Jones at 1.6 kilometres, Madison 3.29, he's almost doubling, and Bryant at 7. I don't think the order is going to change in this race, and we do want more hand cyclists to take part, so put the word out. But the guys who are in this, well done for turning up. We'll try and get the word out more. Keep turning up, because these things don't really get going unless... people do turn up. But like I was saying earlier, I think this is the way forward, because you haven't got all the logistics, having to travel a long way to a race. And when I ran a hand cycling race, that was the problem. I wasn't near where everybody lived. It was a load of effort, blah blah blah. But this can bring you all together without you leaving home. So well done to Echelon. Well done to Koeman from the Netherlands, who with 400 metres to go, unless somebody pulls the plug out, is going to get first place. And he has to say, as the lone non-American in the race, he has done phenomenally well in an away fixture. So well done. let's see, 200 meters to go, and 160 meters to go. I don't think anything's going to change. That's what I say. The only emotion I think you're going to have is when he crosses the line, they're going to say well done, or the absolute shock and horror if he suddenly grinds to a halt because the electricity failed in his house or something. I think he's too close. You can't even get off and walk on these things, can you? But there he is, all safe and sound. The electricity supply has been kept going in the Netherlands enough to see Koeman take the points in the Echelon hand cycling series. Well done. And so you've got Jackie Jones going to come in next to add to the points from previous weeks. There's the paracycling results for you. As we say, that was a thrilling finish for third and fourth place. Everybody getting points. The tables and positions in the series will be up on Echelon's website, so make sure you go to the website. Keep looking along the stream at the bottom of your screen, because the website will come up. Here it comes, look, right on your bottom right hand side, www.echelonracingleague.com. The results will be up there shortly. They do have to look at all the riders. As we say, there was one rider in the women's race who we suspect is probably a man, because he had a male avatar and a man's first name. But in the modern world, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So let's go back to the men's B race. And congratulations to all the paracyclists and the hand cyclists as well. The hand cyclists will go and have a look at their results shortly, but I think we know how that's going to pan out. This one is becoming more and more predictable as the kilometres rattle by. These two working together off the front. We've got Smith and Pavlik, both from the United States, in those resplendent kits. Hambrick from the United States, who has also got a quite loud and eye-catching strip, was third. By the time I got those words out, has dropped back to sixth. But that's because he's in the peloton. That's no big shakes. The difference between 10th and third is probably negligible. So Broad Street, Rebec from Slovenia now on the front. This chops and changes. Everybody takes a few seconds on the front, and at the moment it's Bogoslovsky, and it's let's have a look at the international makeup of this. I mean, we have 5-6 Americans, one from the Netherlands, Slovenia, France. So it's dominated by the US, and why not, as we go down that little bump. Like I say, that little bump and the 6% just off the start, I think they may just be little glitches when somebody made the course up, because they're not, they don't matter. But you can smooth those out a little bit. Maybe they're real and they don't need smoothing out. Who knows? I could be wrong. So let's so look. 13th, Nicholson from Canada, obviously way behind the group in front. 1.2 kilometres riding solo. You get a great workout riding solo, I can tell you that. I've done plenty of them. We're back at the hand cycling with 350 metres to go for Jackie Jones, who's one of the stars of the series. Might go on to win it the way he's going. Picking up some handy points for second place. Like I say, all the results and standings will be up on the EchelonRacingLeague.com website later on, so look out for that once they've been through all the checks and the rigorous process of ensuring that everything's legitimate, which I'm sure it is, and I'm sure even our Frenchman, should he turn out to be a man, in the women's race was a mere oversight and accident. Probably doesn't speak English and was guessing where to press the buttons on the website. I'm sure things like that have happened to me in foreign languages. So well done, Jackie Jones. We're back to the men's B now, and Nicholson in 13th. Like I was saying, he is quite a way behind, 1.2 kilometres behind Borders and Bottigliero. Again, sizable distance back. The billing here now is within sight of Bottigliero, but I whether or not he's bothered to make that up, I don't know. Because you get to a certain point in this, it's like, well, if you're actually fighting for points in the series, it matters. If it doesn't and you're tired and you've got another race tomorrow, maybe going out with your club mates for a ride tomorrow and things like that, it makes a difference to decision making. These two together though, Smith and Oxley. They have got the potential to have a little sprint at the end. Tyler's not. Let's have a look. Mutis and Tyler are not too far apart, are they? I say Colombia and the USA. Then we get to Barriere, the Canadian, who I assume is from Quebec, with a name like that. He's no longer with the Frenchman, so there's not too much parler en français going on between those two, I should imagine, with a 900 metre gap between the two. And Gibbons, the Brit, 2.7 metres behind Nuri, is just enjoying, I think, a Saturday ride out on this course, enjoying the hospitality of St. Louis, with a albeit stock Magic Roads scenery. So back to hand cycling now. As we just see how far we've got to go. 1.2 kilometres left for Madison, who looks like taking third place. 4.7 kilometres in front of Bryant. I don't think there's going to be too much contesting for that position. So well done, Bryant. It's always a pleasure to see people out doing this and getting some fun on the road. And as we see in fourth place, Bryant there, now still with 5.7 kilometres to go. So probably at that speed, another 10 minutes riding ahead. It is wonderful scenery. It's quite clearly a sunny day if you look at the scenery as well. So for those of us in the northern hemisphere who think it's winter, you can just maybe don't shut your eyes, but focus only on the screen and imagine it's a sunny day. How's that? Madison coming home now with 600 metres to go. This is something of a formality, but we make the old observation that certainly on Wednesday night in my race, there was one rider who absolutely the power went, and he was 20 metres from the finish and had to sit there while other people rode past and beat him. So nothing's for certain, but I think the probability is that we're going to see Madison pick up third place and the points in the Echelon Racing League. We'll go with third place. So we'll look forward to having a look at the league tables later. Don't forget, there's more racing tomorrow on here. We've got a big course tomorrow down in Colorado, involving a bit of climbing, and it's a long race too, 80 kilometres. So that's going to be quite an endurance test, both in terms of the ascent and the distance. And I'm very intrigued to see how that one pans out. We know that Bryant is now going to claim third place as he crosses the line. Well done, sir. An admirable ride. Fantastic stuff. We probably better have a look back at the men's B goings on, as we see it's going to take probably another 10 minutes for the final rider in the hand cycling. So Pavlich and Smith are now at the thick end of 300 or thick end of 400 meters ahead. 7.8 kilometers to go, working together. I think we can assume that those two are going to have a sprint finish, but just behind them, probably 400 meters behind them by the time we get to the finish, is this little bunch, and this is evolving into quite a nice little mind game, isn't it? Who in here really wants it, and who's glad that the little group they've in tagged them along and they've got position higher than they might have otherwise done? Who knows? We don't. They do. Well, I say they do. Individually they do. Collectively they don't, do they? And it's not even like a real race where you can look across at the eyes of the other person and see what they're what it's saying, listen to how hard they're breathing or anything like that. There's less indicators, isn't there? So we shall see. So these guys, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a group of about 9, isn't it? So no, maybe it's 10. Sorry. Nagoslovsky is certainly making a name for himself. It was quite interesting looking at the men's A race, isn't it? That there were names that were off the front all the time, and the results came up, and then suddenly 2 or 3 people whose names had not even been mentioned in the commentary, who had got decent placings just by sitting quietly in the peloton. So let's mention everybody's names, so I can't get accused of missing anybody out. Bogoslowski 3rd, Christian 4th, they just switched places. Broad Street Borders, Fred the Frenchman, Nelson, Kopka from the USA, Hambrick from the USA, but I don't think I've mentioned much. And we've got David Breaktu, another Frenchman. His name doesn't come up much. There he is in 10th place. David Breaktu. I wonder, can we see his stats, do you think? Is it possible? Interested to see what he's doing, because he's just quietly sat in there at that group without getting dropped at all. Oh, it's Breaktu. Okay, so I'm misreading. So David Breaktu from France. He's pushing out 230. I'm intrigued. He's either one of these canny riders that just sits in there and lets everybody do the work and then saves it all for the finish, or he's tagging along, grateful for being towed along, because otherwise he'd be back with a different crew. Interesting. He just hasn't featured. It may well be that he's gone off on the front when we're not looking. We haven't. We've been flicking backwards and forwards between the the paracycling and the hand cycling, so we may well have missed his finest moments, but so far he has been a little bit under the radar, hasn't he? One to watch. Okay, we've got our eye on you, David Breaktu from France. I think this lot, we got 5.6 kilometres. It will start, it must be going through their minds now. So look at Hambrick's. Hambrick, I have mentioned him, but I don't think we've seen his data at all. I wouldn't mind seeing what Hambrick's data looks like. They're going up this little climby bit just after the start finishing line. So they overtake some back markers. I think everybody in this group is now beginning to wonder. So we've got Hambrick. I'm quite fascinated to see what he's pushing out, because he's another one to my mind that has sat in the group. Marian Hambrick from the USA. But I think he got mentioned earlier because I thought his kit was quite bright. 207. You notice that 207, see it's 206, like 199. When that goes red, that means he's putting out more watts than he needs to. So therefore, what it's essentially telling you, he's sitting on somebody's wheel, so it doesn't need to push that hard. And it tells you that by sort of going, your watts will go red because it's saying you're actually doing more than you need to. You do less, you do the same speed. But you can see here, he's just sort of like sitting on all the time, isn't he? I mean, we can never tell from looking at an avatar whether those are tired legs clinging on or they're savvy legs just sitting on people's wheels, letting them do the work. In a real race, you can look at a rider and you can sometimes just tell the way they're pedaling that actually they're near the limit. We don't know, but he's certainly sitting in. I think in between David Breaktu and Marian Hambrick, they've both cleverly sat in this peloton. So let's just mark their cards as potential sprint winners, because this is the sort of thing sprinters do. Sit there very, very carefully under the radar. Back to the hand cycling now, and we're looking at 3.7 kilometres to go for Brian. The results so far are up there. So Brian is the only rider on the road, so assuming he doesn't get any mechanicals, will finish 4th. No other rider finishing 4th. Looking at the times there, Jackie Jones 3 minutes behind, Sander Koeman from the Netherlands, and Jim Madison a further 4 minutes or so back on Jackie. It's going to be a while now before we see Bryant come in, but apart from Mechanicals, I think I'll go down and put Sonny on him finishing 4th. Back to the Men B, the 2 solo riders now eked out 448. It's not a meters gap back. It's not growing a lot, but I just think with 3.3 kilometers to go, the pack behind is not of sufficient size or or perhaps intention and need that it's going to contest these two riders now. It's just edging up towards 500 meters with 3 kilometers to go. They're not going to get caught. The other thing is, why put the pressure on now? Because these two have got to duke it out in a sprint finish, one presumes, or somebody's going to have to go early and try and eke out a gap that can't be overcome. Which will happen, we don't know yet, but 2.8 kilometers to go, both are quite clearly, as they enter the last lap, probably thinking about this. Now, was that an attack off the front? Because just as they were going up the slope there, you just didn't know he's not quite done it. So Pavlich, I did wonder whether somebody would just do that attack there and try and get that gap, maybe 40-50 meters going over that one little bit of a climb, if you can call it that, and whether that would have done them up so they can just then sprint, but sort of time trial to the finishing line with the other party not catching them. That hasn't happened, so we're down to 2.3 kilometers on the last lap as we go down the bit that where it passes the route on the other side. It looks like they're taking turns, both kind of cat and mouse working together here. 2.2 kilometers. We're coming down that final 2 kilometers. You can see on the right hand side in the middle of your screen the blue blob showing you where they are on the course. They've got to go up your screen, then they'll do a left hand or 2 left hand turns, come down again, and that sharp right, and they go onto that final loop at the bottom. You can see the blue blob sort of moving up the track, showing you which direction they're going. 1.9 kilometers to go. The cat and mouse, if it's going to start, starts pretty soon, I would guess. David Bracu is now in 4th position, and he has got a gap over the other guys. I think Bogoslovsky is with him. I was going to say they had a 30-minute gap, but I think I paused because I think the peloton's clawing that back, and it is Nelson there within sight. It has strung it out though, and with these guys with around 2 kilometers to go, it will probably suit some of them to lose people off the back of that pack. Now, interestingly, I'm just trying to see where. So David Bracu, who's one of the ones I said we need to watch for him because he sat there under the radar for the whole race, has actually, as I sort of thought he might, been saving himself. Marian Hambrick, I don't think is. I said he was another one who was under the radar. I don't think he's going to do it. So I got 1 out of 2 right. Who we got in this front group? To me, it looks like Fred is probably the point at which we start sort of not counting people. 1.2 kilometers to go. This is definitely splintering. Hambrick back there at 10th. It's possibly, I might be wrong, but I think that's where the gap's going to split. I think between 8th and 10th there is probably where the gap is. So these two guys, 600 meters to go. This is where it all gets exciting. They are still neck and neck, aren't they? You'd almost say toe to toe, isn't it? I mean, the pedals are going around at the same speed, and everything else is 300 meters to go. This is cagey, isn't it? I don't get the impression. I don't know. It's riding at 43 kph. Joshua Smith Pavlich has gone for it. I think Pavlich. Oh no! Joshua Smith, look at that! Phenomenal. He's got a pocket rocket, hasn't he? He stormed that. Joshua Smith. Absolutely fantastic win. Pavlich, the unfortunate runner-up, but well fought, sir. Now then, what have we got? Bogoslovsky, Broad Street, Christian. I think so. My prediction on David Breku, I think he might. Bogoslavsky is going to take second place. Broad Street fourth. This hasn't quite turned out into the bunch sprint that I had hoped for. Perhaps more of a bunch sprint a little bit further back. Borders coming in ninth. Hambrick is going to lose out to Fred, I think. There, Fred looks a stronger rider as they cross the line. So Hambrick coming in 11th in his resplendent kit. Kopka will be 12th. Did I say that? I'm not sure. Not quite sure why 12th and 14th next to each other. Well, we can't see Nicholson. Oh, I see. Sorry. The reason is, yeah, there's a lap difference. They're not actually racing on the same lap, are they? So Kopka's going to come in to finish. Nicholson's still got another lap to go. That makes sense now. So, well, that was we saw a couple of good sprints there at the end. Barrier from Canada at 19th. 13 Nicholson coming in to finish the race on this lap, but still got 2.2 kilometres. Has the hand cycling finished yet? Are we? We see there is Joshua Smith, Joe Pavlich, the two riders at the front. Joshua Smith with a phenomenal sprint at the front. I mean, that was absolutely timed to perfection. It was emphatic. It was crushing. It was spectacular. What a sprint at the end. Well done, Joshua. Bad luck, Joe Pavlik. So the other results will start finding their way onto the screen. They've got some more coming up now. Another Joshua Bogoslavsky finishing third. This was a little bit strung out, and what we did get is that little clutch around 1 hour, 5 minutes and 19 seconds. Eric Ripech, David Broku, who I sort of wrongly tipped as a bit of a dark horse, but still respectable 7th, not to be knocked. Michael Christian, Brad Borders, Del Fred. That just doesn't sound French to me, but anyway, there we are. I'm sure it is. Marion Hambrick, who I thought was a dark horse, but in the end was pipped by Fred. And it just looks to me that Marion had that had a little bit of fatigue where Delfred was just able to sort of kick in on that last little run in. Vladimir Kapka making up the first dozen across the line. So that was I'd say that was quite a good finish, wasn't it? This is Echelon Racing League. This is the men's B race. The hand cycling, we see that Bryant has just got 1.2 kilometres to go to reach the formality of finishing 4th and picking up points in the Echelon Racing League. So, what you need to know, what have we had today? We've had 2 people potentially qualify, subject to all the checks, for the UCI Grand World Championship, 3 racing on 26th of February. Look out for that. I'm sure it will be broadcast. Yaden Jaeger for the men, of course, in that spectacular men's A race as we look at the men's B race. And as I say, the racing today has been fantastic. I mean, even those with lighter entries have been spectacular and enjoyable. And it's been a privilege to be part of the broadcast for this. As I say, there's plenty more to come throughout the winter. This is a winter racing series, both on the pro front and on the community front, which is for us amateurs. So make sure you've kind of had a look at everything that's coming up. There are points, as I said before, for all the finishers. I can't work out that, and I can't give it to you immediately in the broadcast because they need to be collated. And as I say, certainly in the ladies' race, there might be one disqualification. Absolutely phenomenal race between the 2 ladies, between Jackie Godby and Megan Isla. The way, in fact, going back to that little sprint that we just witnessed, I would say that in the ladies' race and the men's B race, those finishing sprints were phenomenal. Megan Isla, absolutely amazing. I mean, she sat on Jackie Godby's wheel for the whole race and then just crushed her at the end. in a way that we've just seen in this race with Joshua Smith beating Joe Pavlik with a phenomenal and strong sprint. This is the sort of thing you want to see. Make sure, as I say, you go to echelonracing.com. echelonracingleague.com. Check out the full series positioning after all these races a bit later on, and we'll be back tomorrow for a big one. 80. Can you believe this? It's over 80 kilometers racing. It's got some climbs in it. It is Colorado. It's a bit mountainy down there, isn't it? And I think it's going to be as thrilling as it has been today. So just make sure you're with us. Everything to look forward to. It's broadcast by ZMS, racing brought to you by USA Cycling and Echelon Racing League. I'm Dave Morrison, and I'll be here tomorrow for more of this thrilling stuff. See you then.